Chapter 195. After Tianyan learned about the other channel, he was happy and decided to come back next time to absorb this spiritual vein. If he continues to absorb like this, it won't be a problem for him to break through to the peak of Spirit Core stage. Then he can use the upgrade tool to easily break through to the core transformation stage. He still had an item that he hadn't used yet, and it was effective for cultivators within the Spirit Core stage. He definitely won't use it immediately. He will wait until he is at the peak of Spirit Core stage. When he reaches a higher level, he will need more EXP, so the upgrade tool will undoubtedly be the most effective. The reward for fighting above his level is not bad, but the price he has to pay is also relatively high. You stay here for a while. I will come back to find you later. Don't run around, understand? Tianyan said. And I know, brother. Renjiro nodded and didn't say that she would follow him. She chose a place to sit down and frowned as if she was thinking about something. She just woke up from a deep sleep and didn't know how long she slept, so it was normal for her to have some confusion in her memory. However, since the opponent can hurt a core transformation stage cultivator, she believes that the opponent is obviously more terrifying. After seeing that everything was fine, Tianyan jumped into the water and quickly swam back to the original place. Without hesitation, he rushed into the hole and was immediately sprayed out along with the spring water. In the blink of an eye, he was sprayed out of the water just like before. Because there was a lake outside, he didn't get sprayed out like before. Just as he came out, he heard someone calling him. Young Master E, where are you? It's time, hurry up and come out of the water. Elder Yun shouted for him from above, and soon, he emerged from the water. You finally came out, it's time, hurry up and go out. Elder Yun saw Tianyan swim out of the water and was relieved. Sorry, I was too engrossed in cultivation just now. Tianyan casually found an excuse. Young Master E, you have actually absorbed a lot. If you continue to absorb like this place will be sucked dry by you. Elder Yun's helpless tone was mixed with a hint of surprise. Tianyan looked back and found that a lot of the spiritual power in this area had been sucked away. The whole lake had become thin, and it was almost like the water in a lake. If he continued to absorb it like this, he would definitely be sucked into an ordinary lake. I didn't absorb much of this either. Tianyan shrugged his shoulders. He felt that the amount here was not much. No wonder there was such a strict restriction. Moreover, this place had already been used up quite a bit in the past. Now that he had absorbed a bit of it, it was basically all gone. He did not know how long it would take for him to recover a little. The Heaven Spiritual Jade Pool isn't like before. It'll be gone after a while. Even so, your speed is a bit too fast. It looks like it's about to become clear, Elder Yun said with a sigh. Under Elder Yun's lead, they left this place. Soon after, the door was closed once again. Elder Yun, what price do I have to pay to enter the Heaven's Spiritual Jade Pool? Tianyan asked. You still want to go in? Elder Yun smiled and said, but most cultivators like this kind of cultivation place, so the price is relatively high. Generally speaking, a mid-grade soul tool can be exchanged for 2 days, and a low-grade soul tool can only be exchanged for half a day. This price is still acceptable. Tianyan could not refine a mid-grade soul tool, but it was not a problem for him to refine a low-grade soul tool. He just needed to throw 10 of them over, and they would be able to enter the Heaven's Spiritual Jade Pool to absorb. The price is indeed not very expensive, but the spiritual power inside is limited. It can only last for 10 days at most. Elder Yun said helplessly, the recovery speed is much slower than before. If we want to restore the normal amount, it will take a few months. It seems that the situation in the Heaven's Spiritual Jade Pool is not good anymore. Tianyan shook his head. It seemed that even if he found another entrance, he would not be able to absorb it for too long. The only valuable thing was that secret chamber, which was built with spiritual jade stones. He believed that the experience points contained in it would not be too little. Yes, otherwise, the restrictions would not be so strict. Without special contributions, you really can't go in. Elder Yin smiled and said, therefore, young master, he can stay in there for 5 days. This is already a very big reward. The others are very envious. Tianyan nodded his head. This reward for the first place was really good, much better than the other rewards. Oh, by the way, Pavilion Master Lee told me to give this to you after you come out. Elder Yin took out a token and handed it over, saying, "This is the guest token. He hopes that you can become the Star Pavilion's guest token. You don't need to do anything." Tianyin pondered for a moment and immediately accepted. "Well, I will be the guest token." Although he did not have a good impression of the Zhu family, the situation of the general pavilion here was not bad. At least they treated him well. It was not a problem to make friends with them. After all, in the heavenly boundary continent, the Star Pavilion status was not low. "Guesty, welcome to our Star Pavilion." Elder Yun congratulated. "From now on, you are our Star Pavilion's youngest guest token." "That is really my honor." Tianyin smiled. This was not unexpected. At his age, there were not many divine runes that could be compared to him. It was normal to become the youngest guest token. Pavilion Master Lee also said that if you are willing to become a guest token, you can stay here to attend the VIP banquet. "How about it?" Elder Yun said with a smile. "I'm sorry, I still have things to do," Tianyin said apologetically. "Well, in that case, I will not disturb you anymore. If it's possible, you can participate after a period of time, probably in the next month." Elder Yun smiled and said, "This is a very grand VIP banquet. It is hosted by several third-grade forces. I heard that the Netherworld Empire will also come. This is a rare opportunity, so if Guesty has nothing to do, please try to attend." Netherworld Empire? Tianyin squinted his eyes. This is an extremely domineering empire. He even came to attend this VIP dinner. This is a bit interesting. Yes, the Netherworld Empire sent a minister. It seems that he has something important to announce. Elder Yin thought for a moment, then smiled and said, "So if Guesty can come, it will be a pity if he can't." Chapter 196. After saying goodbye, Tianyin quickly returned to the bamboo forest. When he saw Run Jiro still sitting there, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, when he looked up, he saw two strong men lying on the ground in the distance. It seemed that they were seriously injured. "What the hell happened?" Tianyin asked. "Brother, those two people came and wanted to take me away. They said that I was lost and wanted to take me to his house." Renjiro clenched her fists when she saw Tianyin. "I said no. They wanted to take me away, so I fought back and they became like this. Did I do something wrong?" She revealed a pitiful and delicate look. It was really pitiful. Who would have thought that under such a pitiful expression, she was actually at the 5th layer of core transformation stage? "They met some hooligans." Tianyin expressed his sympathy for the two men. "Why did they come to Renjiro?" This place was indeed a bit remote. The two hooligans must have been attracted by her beauty and wanted to take her home by force. Who would have thought that they would encounter such a tragedy? "Anyway, let's go back first." Tianyin nodded at her and led her to the place where Yue and Tianyin were staying. He had told them in advance that he would come to the Star Pavilion to get the reward and cultivate in the Celestial Spiritual Jade Pool for 5 days. Now that they were going back, they were going to be accompanied by one more person. "Did you think of anything?" Tianyin asked casually. "I don't think I can think of anything." Renjiro tilted her head and frowned, but she still couldn't think of anything. "Don't worry, take your time." Tianyin felt helpless and could only continue to lead Renjiro away. When he returned to the place where they were staying, he found that something was wrong. He couldn't feel the breath of Yue and Xuan. His heart sank, and he quickly ran to their place. As soon as he arrived, he saw that their place was in a mess. The door was smashed, and there were obvious signs of a fight. His face immediately darkened and became quite unsightly. He glanced at the place. It was obvious that some martial artist had broken in and taken everyone away. He looked down and saw a line of words carved on the ground. "If you want to save someone, come to empty falling rain alone." There was no signature or too much information, but he had already thought of a few candidates in his mind. Currently, the ones who had some enmity with him were none other than Lin Li and Patriarch Wang. Patriarch Wang, Lin Li, Tianyun's gaze was cold, and his tone was sinister. "If anything happens to them, I will bury your entire Wang clan with them." He was completely infuriated. The person who could capture EUA and the rest by any means necessary was undoubtedly Lin Li. Besides him, no one else would be so resentful to actually choose to capture EUA and the others to threaten him. Looking at the traces of fighting, it was clear that they hadn't left for too long, which meant that nothing would have happened. Brother, what's wrong? Renjiro saw the cold look on Etienne's face. I'm going to kill someone. Are you coming? Etienne asked in a low voice. Yes, brother. Wherever you want to go, I will go. Renjiro smiled. All right, let's go now. After that, he equipped the phoenix wings and flew high into the air with Renjiro in tow. He flew swiftly towards MT falling rain, and his speed instantly soared to the limit. In order to save EUA and the others, he could not afford to waste any time. Moreover, there was no one around, and no one would notice what was happening here. Etienne flew to a remote corner of MT falling rain as fast as he could, then quickly landed and retracted the phoenix wings. After he came down, his powerful mind power immediately enveloped the entire mountain. In his fury, his mind power was completely unleashed and thoroughly explored every corner of the falling rain mountain. Soon, he easily found the captured EUA and the others. They were all trapped in a cave, and there were 3 people guarding them. Naturally, Etienne knew one of them. It was Lin Li. Even if he turned into ashes, Etienne would still recognize Lin Li. After locking onto the area, he quickly rushed over. Just as he reached the entrance of the cave, he heard cries coming from inside. Try moving again? So annoying. I really want to slap them to death. Wang Shui was quite dissatisfied. Let's wait for that kid to come. After we finish him off, you can do whatever you want with these people. Lin Li's voice came from inside. Young Master Lin, that kid's cultivation is so weak. You think too highly of him if you do it yourself. Don't you think you're overestimating him by asking us to help? Wang Qing's tone was quite disdainful. He felt that one person was more than enough to deal with Etienne. I suspect that the kid has helpers. I believe that a kid who can reach such a level must have guards with him. Lin Li was quite cautious, but he was also quite angry. That kid has helpers? No matter what, we'll stay here and catch all his people. I don't believe that he won't come. Wang Shui snorted coldly. What do you want to do to Elder Yi? Yue's cold voice came. Hey, what do you think we're going to do to him? Oh, he's an elder. Such a young elder. But he's going to die in our hands soon. Wang Qing laughed sinisterly. That kid is quite lucky with women. These 2 are the flowers of the Zhu family. We're not from the Zhu family for a long time. Our surname is Yi. Yue and the others corrected them, and then said coldly, Elder Yi won't come, so all of you should just give up on this idea. Kill or torture, do as you wish. Yue's tone was firm. She would not choose to compromise. If he doesn't come, then I'll enjoy the taste of the woman he likes. Lin Li's voice was cold. He had already reached the end of his patience with Etienne. Since he could not deal with him openly, he could only play dirty tricks. Yue and the others' faces instantly turned pale. Thinking that they were going to be tainted, they might as well just die. Is that so? I'd like to see if you have the life to enjoy it. Etienne's figure flashed in silently from outside. This gave them a shock. It was too sudden, and they did not sense it at all. Elder Yi. When Yue saw Etienne, she was surprised and worried at the same time. They could see that the 3 of them had strong cultivation. Etienne looked up and saw that Ming Yi, Yue, and the others were completely tied up except for some bruises on their arms. Other than that, they were all fine. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. However, the words of Lin Li and the others made him furious. They were indeed brothers. They were all the same, a bunch of scum. You came so fast. Don't tell me you brought help this time. If you did, don't blame us for being rude. Wang Shui chuckled. He took out a dagger and waved it at Yue and the others' faces. This meant that if Etienne moved, he would stab them. Chapter 197. So what if we threaten you? Wang Qing sneered. Now both of them are in our hands. Obediently surrender, or you will die. Elder Yi, don't listen to them. If you surrender, then everything will be over. Xuan and Yue shouted. Really, if you don't surrender, then you will be finished. Wang Qing turned his head and looked at Tianyan. My elder Yi, why don't you surrender? To be able to become an elder, your cultivation should not be low, right? Core condensation? Reaching this level of cultivation at such a young age is not bad. Their cultivation is also in the core condensation level, and Wang Shui is in the spirit core level, so he said that Lin Li is too cautious. I will surrender. Don't hurt the two of them. Tianyun's voice is extremely cold. If anger can be spat out, this place would have already turned into hell. He looked at the three people in front of him. Lin Li's cultivation is still at the second level of core condensation. Wang Shui and Wang Qing are two brothers, deacon and elder of the Wang family. Their cultivation is more amazing. Really, I don't believe this. I advise you not to act rashly. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. Wang Shui still kept the dagger pointed at their necks, motioning Wang Qing to check. Lin Li waved his hand, motioning them not to move. He has already used his mental power to explore the situation outside, inside and outside, but did not find any signs of hiding. There is no one outside, but I don't know if there is anyone far away. Lin Li is very sure his mental power is not weak, unless the cultivation is very high. Otherwise, he can easily explore. He thinks that the biggest backer of Tianyan is only the Zhu family. Except for the Zhu family head, the rest of the elders' cultivation is the same as Wang Shui. So even if they fight, they can retreat. There is no need to worry. Yo, looks like you're quite daring. You really came alone? Wang Qing nodded and walked over. He looked at Tianyun and sneered. I advise you not to escape. If you escape, we can't guarantee their survival. He walked over as he spoke, already prepared to erupt at any time. He didn't believe that Tianyun could escape from his hands. I won't run. As long as you let them go, I'll let you do whatever you want of me. Tianyun stared at Wang Qing and said, Elder Yi, don't believe them. They will kill you. Hurry up and run. Yue shouted loudly, not caring about their own lives. Pa! She was slapped by Lin Li, but Yuxuan had already blocked it. Lin Li's slap landed on her shoulder, but because it was too heavy, it still caused her to break out in cold sweat from the pain. Don't hit my sister. Yuxuan's eyes were cold. Even at this moment, she could still protect her sister. What a good sisterly love. But isn't she still a bitch? I heard that she was abandoned before getting married. It seems like the Zhu family has no value in raising you. The other party doesn't like you at all. Lin Li sneered and looked at Tianyun. He smiled and said, Run if you can. I can't guarantee what I will do. Don't make a move. I said I won't run. Tianyun's voice was cold, and his heart was filled with killing intent. At this moment, Wang Qing rushed over and grabbed Tianyun. He locked his hands so that he couldn't move. Young Master Lin, I've already caught him. He can't escape. Wang Qing laughed. It was quite easy, and there was no difficulty. Very well, bring him to me. Lin Li sneered, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Tianyun was also brought over. There was no despair in his eyes, and they were still filled with killing intent. I've been caught. Let them go, Tianyun said calmly. Lin Li and the others looked at each other, and then burst into laughter. Their laughter was so sarcastic, as if they were looking at a clown. It was so ignorant. Young Master Lin, this kid really believes it. Wang Shui laughed and let go of the dagger that was aimed at Yue and the others. It was no longer necessary. At this moment, Tianyun's eyes flashed with a bit of light. Brother, you can't say that to him. It proves that his heart is very pure, and he just doesn't understand the evil in this world. Wang Qing, who was holding Tianyun, laughed along and almost cried. Those who say this kind of words are completely those who haven't seen the world. And now in their eyes, Tianyun is this kind of person. Lin Li sneered, looked at Tianyun, and said, playing tricks in front of me. So what if your talent in divine inscriptions is not bad? You are still in my hands, and I can do whatever I want with you. Immediately, he raised his palm and slapped Tianyun's face. He was not in a hurry to kill Tianyun, but to humiliate him first. Crazy mode. Activate. Boom. 8 times the strength exploded in an instant, and in an instant his battle power exploded to more than 3 million. His body shook violently, and Wang Qing, who was holding him, was sent flying and hit the wall. Immediately after, he kicked Lin Li's body with lightning speed. Bang! He was kicked to the stone wall, and after spitting out a mouthful of blood, he slid down the stone wall and almost fainted. Yi Tianyin's kick is too fierce, but he still held back. Yi Tianyin naturally doesn't want to kick him to death. "You little brat, go to hell." Wang Qing, who was freed, was shocked. He quickly took out a dagger and aimed at Yi Tianyin's back. Immediately after, a shadow descended, turned around, and kicked at Wang Qing. The shadow didn't even pause in its movements as it kicked at Wang Qing heavily. Wang Qing hurriedly reached out to block, but how could he resist the strength of a spirit core stage? Boom! Wang Qing was sent flying by a kick. However, this kick wasn't light at all. It directly broke his arm, and he let out a miserable cry as he was sent flying. Then, he quickly rushed to Wang Shui. Wang Shui reacted quickly and hurriedly turned to Yi Yuxuan and the others, wanting to use them as a shield. But a scorching flame had already been printed on his back. Not knowing when, Yi Tianyin had flashed behind him and slapped him hard. Apart from the power that had been pushed to the limit, the inextinguishable flame had also been poured into his body. The terrible flame quickly burned in his body, and accompanied by a scream, the flame quickly and crazily swallowed the meridians in his body. In the blink of an eye, a large area was burned, and even the flame came out of the surface of his body. Your flame?" Wang Shui was shocked. He felt that the internal organs in his body were burning. He hurriedly used his power to suppress the flame, but it was meaningless. The terrible, immortal fire quickly swallowed him. "Get out of here!" Yi Tianyin rushed up and kicked him. Boom! Wang Shui was kicked away, and his chest was sunken. Originally, he was burned by the flame, and now he was kicked again. It was hard not to die. Ding! Successfully killed Wang Shui. Reward: 150,000 EXP, 2,400 crazy point. Obtain martial arts sky, flipping step. Obtained item, broken heaven sword. The system's voice came, proving that he was completely dead. Yi Tianyin quickly untied their rope. This is an upper-grade spirit tool. Ordinary rope cannot bind them. Elder Yi, it's all our fault for bringing trouble to you, Yue said apologetically. Chapter 198. Yi Yuxuan and Yi Yuxuan looked at Ren Jiro, who was standing beside them. They were stunned by her beauty. She looked like a fairy, which made them feel inferior. This is the first time Yue saw someone who was on the same level as Shi Shuiyan, but now she is standing next to Yi Tianyin. This made her feel very shocked. It had only been a few days. How could there be such a celestial woman with Elder Yi? "You! Who are you?" Lin Li looked at Ren Jiro in shock. He didn't even see how this person came in. The most important thing is that she is so beautiful. It makes him mad with jealousy. "This is none of your business." Yi Tianyin first turned around and walked in front of Wang Qing. He was kicked to the point that he can't move. It seems like he is dying. "You want to threaten them, right? You want to kill them? I think you should die first." After saying that, he raised his hand and tossed out an inextinguishable flame. When it landed on Wang Qing's body, it ignited him. Miserable shrieks rang out continuously, but the heavily injured Wang Qing could no longer move. Ding successfully killed Wang Qing, gained 250,000 EXP, 3,400 crazy point. Obtained martial art cloud palm, heaven flipping step. Lin Li's eyes are full of fear. Their life and death have nothing to do with him. He doesn't want to die. "Now it's your turn." Yi Tianyin turned his head and looked at Lin Li, who was lying on the ground. Lin Li has quickly taken a recovery pill. In addition to resentment, there is more fear in his eyes. He didn't expect Yi Tianyin's strength to be so strong, and the helper he brought is even more terrifying. Yi Tianyin killed Wang Qing in one move, a spirit core expert. This means that such a young woman's cultivation is stronger than Wang Qing. He remembered that it is impossible for the Zhu family to have such a strong person, unless the patriarch comes in person. But how can the patriarch become Yi Tianyun's personal bodyguard? Let me go. I will not pursue this matter anymore. I am a member of Divine Rune Mansion. You know what kind of force you have to face. I'm a core disciple of the Divine Inscription Manor. If you kill me, you'll become an enemy of the Divine Inscription Manor. Linley looked at Renjiro and the others. He had no chance of escaping, so he could only beg for mercy. Divine Inscription Manor? Yi Tianyun coldly laughed. If I kill you here, do you think the Divine Inscription Manor will know? They will find out. As long as you let me go, I will definitely not pursue this matter. I will even recommend you to join the Divine Inscription Manor and let you become a core disciple. Linley kept throwing out tempting conditions, and even kept mentioning the Divine Inscription Manor, which was one of the top forces in the Heavenly Boundary Continent. Join the Divine Rune Manor? But I'm not interested at all. And can your words be trusted? I'm sure I'll be dead the moment I enter the Divine Inscription Manor. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. There's something I have to say to you. You have to pay for what you have done. Let me return these words to you. Yi Tianyun would never be lenient to his enemies. What about reforming? What about being merciful? What about biting the hand that fed him? He was not a saint. He had always been a person who would not offend others if they didn't offend him. Lin Li's expression was extremely ugly. He knew that it was impossible for Yi Tianyun to let him go. Yes, if you have the ability, wait for me to recover. Let's have a fair duel, regardless of life or death. At this time, Lin Li was still making a last-ditch struggle. Oh, you can even say such words? Those two helpers just now. What's up with them? Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. Some people were especially despicable. Usually, they especially loved to find excuses, such as gang fights, or when they were not strong enough, they would say one-on-one. If they lost one-on-one, they would say that their condition was not good. What was the point of making a bunch of excuses? It would only show their cowardice. I'm asking you, do you dare to fight one-on-one with me? If you're a man, then fight one-on-one with me. Lin Li stood up. He had previously taken a recovery elixir and recovered a little. Provocation? Yi Tianyun said calmly. Don't worry, I accept your challenge. Then she can't do anything. This is a duel of life and death. Lin Li said coldly. Don't worry, I don't need her help to deal with trash like you. As long as you kill me, you can get out of here alive. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. When he thought of what Lin Li said just now, he wanted to kill Lin Li with his own hands. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Li had already rushed forward. A long sword appeared in his hand. He aimed at Yi Tianyun and stabbed it fiercely. The silvery shadow was extremely dazzling in this pitch-black cave. The light from the sword shone directly into Yi Tianyun's eyes, forming a blinding effect. Sword of sharpness. Go to hell? His eyes were cold, and his handsome face was distorted. He looked very ferocious. Lin Li attacked without hesitation. The sharp sword in his hand was aimed at Yi Tianyun's throat. He wanted to kill him in one hit. He would not hold back. Every move was a killing move, and every move was meant to kill. It was impossible to see that he was injured. The power that burst out was his peak power. This was related to the elixir that he had just consumed. It could quickly heal his injuries and stimulate his potential. Most importantly, Yi Tianyun had spared his life. Otherwise, no matter what elixir he had, it would be useless. Wang Qing and the rest were the best examples. They were crippled with just one kick. They did not even have the strength to take out elixirs. Facing Lin Li, who was rushing towards him, Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He did not care about the blinding light that blocked his vision. In the next moment, he suddenly moved. A terrifying aura burst out. His legs seemed to contain an endless amount of power. As he stomped on the ground, the explosive power caused his speed to increase dramatically. He quickly dodged to the side and easily dodged the sword. At the same time, he faced the violent fist. Go back to where you came from. Yi Tianyun aimed at Lin Li's stomach. Bang! Lin Li was sent flying. The long sword in his hand fell to the ground. Whether it was speed or strength, he was far behind Yi Tianyun. The gap between the two was too big. Tianyin was at the 8th level of Spirit Core stage, while Lin Li was only at the Core Condensation stage. You only have this little strength? Tianyin looked at Lin Li, who was lying on the ground. Bastard, go to hell! Lin Li roared. He jumped from the ground and punched towards Tianyin. The violent fist wind rolled up a cyclone and attacked Tianyin. But no matter how violent the wind was, it was not as strong as Tianyin's wind. Go away! Tianyin swung his fist and smashed it towards Lin Li. Bang! Lin Li was sent flying again, and with a crack sound, Lin Li's arm was completely destroyed. Ah! Lin Li screamed and grabbed his broken arm. The intense pain made him break out in a cold sweat, and he couldn't stop at all. Chapter 199. Tianyin looked coldly at Lin Li, who was lying on the ground. Lin Li was in so much pain that he was drenched in cold sweat, and his face was twisted. But he did not have the slightest bit of pity, only anger. Today, if he had not returned faster, if he had not been stronger, Yue and the rest would have been in danger. Didn't you want to fight me one-on-one? Get up! Tianyin shouted. The anger in his heart had not diminished at all. Lin Li was beaten half to death. How could he easily get up? His face was pale. His face was full of humiliation, but more than that, fear. He did not expect Tianyin's strength to be so terrifying. If he knew, he would definitely not have fought with Tianyin. Your strength. How can it be so strong? His throat was a little dry, and his voice became extremely unpleasant. Tianyin did not answer him. He took 2 steps forward and grabbed Lin Li's other arm, saying coldly, "You wanted to use this arm to hit people just now. Then don't take it anymore." Then he twisted it fiercely, and this arm was completely crippled. Lin Li screamed in pain. Another arm was crippled, and now he was no different from a cripple. Kill me. Divine inscription manner will make you regret it," Lin Li shouted. He knew that it was useless for him to beg for mercy. Tianyin would definitely kill him. "Don't worry, if divine inscription manner provokes me, I will flatten them all the same," Tianyin said coldly. "Flatten divine inscription manner? Ha! With just you and that helper? Ha! You're too naive. Do you think our divine inscription manner only has this little ability?" Lin Li shouted, his tone full of mockery. "Whether I can or not, we will know after we try. Even if I can't flatten them for now, I have a lot of time." Tianyin raised his hand, and a flame suddenly appeared from the side. It was the inextinguishable fire. The extreme flames appeared at the side, and the high temperature completely dispelled the cold air in the cave. "You?" Facing the fear of death, Lin Li's body trembled. "In the end, I'll let you die under these flames. If there's an afterlife, don't go against me. You'll die miserably." Tianyin waved his hand and immediately released a terrifying, inextinguishable flame, which burned towards them. "Even if I turn into a ferocious ghost, I won't let you off," Lin Li roared. "Turn into a ferocious ghost? Do it if you can. I'm not afraid of ferocious ghosts." Tianyin sneered. With a shriek, Lin Li was killed, but he did not turn into a so-called menacing ghost. Instead, he was completely destroyed. Ding, successfully killed Lin Li. Reward, 170. 000 EXP. 2,400 Crazy Point, 500 Divine Rune Mastery. Obtain Martial Arts Sky Cloud Palm, Earth Level Lower Grade. Reward, Divine Rune Paper, High Grade, 1 Inner Energy Pill. Sure enough, killing those who could inscribe divine inscriptions would allow one to gain proficiency in these divine inscriptions. If he killed his way to the Divine Rune Mansion, it would be easy for him to earn proficiency in these divine inscriptions. Of course, he only hoped that the Divine Rune Mansion would not provoke him. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind washing the Divine Rune Mansion with blood. Immediately, Tianyin's eyes turned cold. He didn't even bother to look at the corpses. He turned around and walked outside. "Elder Yi, thank you for saving us this time." Yushuan and the others followed Tianyin out. They were very grateful. "No, this time I dragged you down. I almost made an irreversible mistake." The anger in Tianyin's heart still hasn't dissipated. He allowed the other party to attack him, but But his friends, what does this mean? Encountering this kind of situation, his heart is extremely angry. His only bottom line was completely destroyed. Then the price that comes with it is not something that can be easily erased. It's okay, as long as we're okay. They felt very relieved, but also very worried. Iyue knows that Etianyun is very strong, but she is still worried that he will be restrained, especially when he was being used as a hostage. If he obediently surrendered, only death awaited him. Of course I will come. This is my responsibility. I will definitely come, Etianyun said in a low voice. Then go back now. This time no one will cause trouble for you. I plan to go somewhere first. Iyue looked at his cold eyes. Her delicate body can't help but tremble, but she still nodded and said, Okay, then I will wait for your return at the inn. And Miss Rin, you go back with them. Wait for my news. Etianyun's eyes are cold. This time he will act alone. Got it, brother? Renjiro nodded, very obedient. Soon after, they quickly left. After they left, Etianyun summoned his pet black dragon and quickly flew towards the Wang family, his speed suddenly rising to the limit. He doesn't know where the Wang family is, but he roughly knows where it is. If he doesn't completely destroy the Wang family, he will not be able to calm the anger in his heart. At the same time, the situation in the Wang family also changed. What is the situation on Lin Li's side? Did he kill that kid? If he is left alive, it will be a big trouble in the future. Wang family head frowned. He hoped that Lin Li did not make any mistakes. This time we sent Elder Wang Qing. I don't believe that kid can escape from the palm of his hand. Elder Wang Xiaohua, who is next to him, sneered. Of course, even Elder Wang Qing is sent. It is like killing a chicken with a butcher's knife. Wang family head's eyes are cold, as long as there is in front of me. And as long as there is in front of me, I will eliminate them all, including the Zhu family. Just as they were thinking about this, a loud bang suddenly came from outside, followed by screams of pain. They hurriedly stood up and asked, What is going on outside? Let's go out and have a look. The Wang family head had a bad premonition and ran out with Elder Wang. When he brought them out of the room, he saw a sea of fire outside. The sky was filled with flames that covered a large area of the Feng family, and screams could be heard from all directions. Many disciples of the Feng family quickly ran outside, and when they came into contact with the fire, they were instantly burned to ashes, unable to resist the terrifying fire. What is going on? They all stared with their eyes wide open. How did the Wang family land in a sea of fire in the blink of an eye? They were all stunned by the scene. And the fire did not look like an ordinary fire at all, but an extremely terrifying and powerful fire. Then a guard rushed in from outside, wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and reported, Family head, there is a person outside with a black dragon killing in. Chapter 200. The terrifying black dragon shocked them. Although the Wang family was restless, they would not provoke a powerful sect. After all, it was an act of seeking death. They would not do such a thing. Let's go and see what's going on. They hastily rushed out and discovered that one of the guards was sent flying by a kick. With a loud bang, the guard was stuck on the wall and vomited blood. Master of the Wang family, where do you want to go? At this time, a young man looked at them coldly. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He was like a god of death. There was a huge black dragon beside him, spewing fire in all directions. In the distance, there was a sea of fire. It seemed that more than half of the area had been destroyed. This was the Wang family's territory. It was not a branch of the Star Pavilion. They did not live in the Star Pavilion. They lived in a mansion outside. Therefore, there was no need to go to the Star Pavilion's branch to kill them. Without a doubt, the young man in front of them was Etianyun. He came with the black dragon without hesitation. He even changed his face. The black dragon did not have to worry about being recognized. It was fine as long as he was not recognized. He did not care whether the other party was from the Star Pavilion or not. Those who provoked him must die. He regarded himself as a potential threat. Then, he would also treat his opponent as a potential threat. He would eliminate them completely. When the Wang family head saw them, his heart sank. He was panic-stricken. He did not know when he had provoked such a terrifying force. Moreover, he looked so young. It was beyond their expectations. The key was that they had never seen him before. "I am the Wong family head. May I know how our Wong family has offended you, my friend?" The Wong family head's face darkened. Even if he was a powerful force, he should not have attacked the Wong family without any explanation. "I have offended too much." Tianyun did not want to talk nonsense with him. He controlled the black dragon and rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the Wong family head. He waved his sharp claws and pounced on him. Tianyun's immortal fire swept down and quickly locked on the Wong family head. "I don't care which faction you're from. Since you're covering your face, don't blame us for being rude." The Wong family's master shouted, and his Spirit Core Stage 6th Layer Spirit Core Stage cultivation burst out. He took out a soul spear and stabbed it at the black dragon. The black dragon didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he continued to pounce forward. Clang! The sharp spear did not manage to pierce through the black dragon. Instead, it sent the Wong family head flying. However, at the same time that he was sent flying, the sharp claws of the black dragon had already slashed down viciously. The terrifying might of a divine beast was unleashed at this moment. Boom! By the time the Wong family head came back to his senses and tried to defend himself, it was already too late. He didn't have any weapons to defend himself, so he could only raise his arms to block the sharp claws. At the same time, he retreated. Swoosh! A large piece of flesh on his arm was torn off. The Wong family head screamed in pain and quickly retreated. His whole arm was almost torn off. Blood continued to drip from the wound and fell all over the ground. Wang Xiaohua, who was next to the Wong family head, exclaimed. He also didn't stay idle. He quickly burst out his strongest strength, reaching the level of 3rd level Spirit Core Stage, and quickly helped to resist the black dragon. But a figure had already rushed over and hit this side heavily. With a bang, Wang Xiaohua was knocked out. His arms were numb, and he almost couldn't resist it. What a strong physique. Just pure strength alone is already so strong. Wang Xiaohua was deeply shocked by this strength. The other party's physique was too strong. It was just the beginning, but the two of them were completely forced to retreat. The Wang family had almost lost one of his arms. However, even if he wasn't injured, he would still be abused. Quick, call for backup. Patriarch Wang quickly took out a jade pendant. Just as he was about to crush it, the black dragon let out a furious roar and pounced forward. It streaked through the air at an astonishing speed, leaving a black streak of light in its wake. Bang! The black dragon hit the Wong family head heavily. It was such a simple and violent move, but the Wong family head couldn't resist it. After being hit, the black dragon opened its mouth and spat out flames, which quickly covered the Wong family head's body. In the blink of an eye, the Wong family head was covered by the flames. The severe pain made him scream. He kept rolling on the floor trying to extinguish the flames, but it was useless. This was the flame of a 5th level Spirit Core Stage black dragon. How could it be so easy to extinguish it? At least he would be burned for a while. Wang Xiaohua was also not much better. He was crazily attacked by Tianyun. He was not afraid of any attack at all. His body was like a shield. No matter how many attacks were launched, it would have no effect. Bang, bang, bang. The moment Wang Xiaohua couldn't resist, he was hit by several punches in a row. Then Wang Xiaohua was hit and flew out. A large part of his body was dented. He was seriously injured. In the blink of an eye, both of them were seriously injured. Wong family head. At that moment, a few of the elders rushed back. Before the Wong family head was sent flying, he had crushed the jade pendant to summon the elders who were in secluded meditation. When they saw what was happening, they were all shocked. Kill them. The Wong family head had recovered from the flames, but his body was already burnt black. He was seriously injured and couldn't move. The cultivation of these elders was not high. They were only at the 1st or 2nd level of Spirit Core Stage. It was really not enough to deal with them. Kill me. Let's see if you are qualified to do so. Tianyun controlled the black dragon and rushed forward. This time, he didn't hold back and punched the elders. With a bang, an elder was directly blasted flying, smashing into a distant house. And then there was not the slightest movement from him. Then he punched out again, and the elder on the other side was sent flying again. His body exploded, and he was instantly killed. In just a few punches, they were easily killed. Ding successfully killed Wang family elder. Reward: 140. 000 EXP. 3100 crazy point. 30 SPs. 500 divine rune mastery. Obtained martial art yellow heaven palm. Obtained item divine rune paper. High grade. Ding successfully killed Wang family elder. Reward: 1500. 000 EXP. 3200 crazy point. 35 SPs. 500 divine rune mastery. Messages popped up one after another, proving that he had killed all these elders. He was ruthless and didn't hold back. Originally, he didn't want to pay attention to the Wang family. After all, in the divine rune competition, he didn't use any ruthless moves, so he didn't have a good impression of the Wang family. Chapter 201. After killing those elders, Tianyan walked towards Wang family head step by step. His eyes were cold and emotionless. "You, who exactly are you? When did our Wang clan offend you?" The Wang clan leader climbed up, his eyes filled with anger and unwillingness. The Wang clan that he had built up with his own hands was gone just like that. How could he be willing to accept this? Although it was a part of the Star Pavilion, it was only a part of it. If it was destroyed, it would be completely over. They would be kicked out of the Star Pavilion. The surrounding was already a sea of fire. No matter how many people came, they would die. He was just a butcher. The Wang family was completely finished. They were destroyed by this man and divine beast. It was so easy and effortless. Especially the flame of the black dragon. It was enough to suppress everything here. Tianyan walked towards them step by step. He squinted at him and said, "When did you offend me?" "Just 2 words, Lin Li. Do you understand?" "Lin Li offended you." Wang family head was startled. He immediately cursed. This Lin Li is not a member of our Wang family. Did you kill the wrong person? He is from the divine rune manor. He has nothing to do with us. This is the Star Pavilion. Do you know about the Star Pavilion?" He cursed. If it was really Lin Li who provoked them, then he would hate Lin Li to death. He made such an enemy for himself and caused the Wang family to be destroyed. No, Lin Li is just one of them. There is another pair of brothers. One is Wang Qing and the other is Wang Shui. Do you understand? Tianyan said coldly. Elder Wang Qing. Wang family head's pupils shrank. He said with a trembling voice, You are that guy's protector?" "No, it's me." Tianyan took off the 100 transformation mask and revealed his young face. "It's you?" Wang family head's eyes widened. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was completely shocked by this information. No matter how he thought, he would never think that it would be Tianyan who came to kill him. Not only was his talent in divine runes amazing, but he also had such terrifying power. "That's right, it's me. You didn't expect this, right?" Tianyan sneered as he walked over, sending people to arrest me, and even kidnapping my people to threaten me. "How dare you? Right now, I'll slaughter your entire Wang family and let you know who you shouldn't provoke. Don't act recklessly. I am the head of the Star Pavilion. If you kill me, the Star Pavilion will not let you off." The Star Pavilion was his last straw, and he hoped that it could scare the other party away. Little did they know that the more they did this, the angrier Tianyan became. No matter what kind of background they had, it was meaningless to him. No matter what kind of power it was, as long as they provoked him, he would kill them all. "Who do you think will recognize me like this?" Tianyan put back on the 100 transformation mask and immediately turned into a different person. You. When the Wang family head saw this, he was a little speechless. He really couldn't tell at all. It looked way too real. After his heart was filled with rage, he vomited blood and fainted, completely losing consciousness. He was already seriously injured, and after being stimulated by the information, he fainted. Xiong! Tianyan threw out the immortal fire, which enveloped the Wang family head and quickly burned him. Then he died. He couldn't be any more dead. There wasn't even the slightest bit of breath left. Elder Wang Xiao on the side was also killed by Tianyan. Ding successfully killed Wang family head, gained 270. 000 EXP, 3600 crazy point, 1000 Divine Rune Mastery, 100 SPS. Obtain Cloud Wave Palm, Heavenly Wind Fist. Obtain Divine Rune Paper, High Grade, 100k EXP Pill. Ding successfully killed Wong family elder, gained Etianyan easily killed them, and gained a lot of EXP, which was all in crazy mode. He can't miss this opportunity. As long as he can get EXP, he will not be stingy with crazy mode. It seems that I have to hurry, or else the support will come. It will be troublesome. Etianyan is not afraid of those who come to support, but he is too lazy to care about those who have no grievances with him. Immediately after, he began to plunder their storage rings, as well as the treasures in front of them. He took them all. He is too short of resources now. He needs to find a lot of resources. In this way, he can make the sect stronger. Otherwise, the third grade sect is still far away. This main quest is not easy. Very quickly, he finished his search. When he came out, he turned around and used the phoenix wings. He didn't need the black dragon to fly on his own. Very quickly, he disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind a sea of flames in the Wong clan. From now on, the Wong family was completely destroyed. Although it can still be rebuilt, it will be impossible to restore to the original level without decades or hundreds of years. Not long after he left, the support immediately arrived. A lot of Spirit Core experts quickly rushed over, but when they saw the sea of fire, they were dumbfounded. What's going on? How long has it been? Even the Wong family head can't resist it? All of the elders rushed over, and when they saw that the Wong family head and the others had been burnt to a crisp, they were all shocked. This fire is so strong. It seems that it is not an ordinary fire. Could it be that the person who killed the Wong family head is an alchemist or a blacksmith? They all frowned, thinking that this matter is not simple, but they don't know what kind of force the Wong family had provoked. This is not clear. We can only report it truthfully. It seems that the Wong family is finished. I don't know what kind of force he provoked, knowing that we are the Star Pavilion, but still dare to do this. It seems that the other party should not be simple. Is it the Imperial Force? The Imperial Force? This is possible, but why did the Wong family head provoke the Imperial Force? Isn't he seeking his own death? They all shook their heads, not knowing the situation. They can only choose to go back for the time being. The Wong family head has been completely obliterated. They can only go back to report. Soon, the news that the Wong family head was destroyed spread quickly, shocking many forces. This is equivalent to directly slapping the face of the Star Pavilion. How can they not be angry? For this reason, the Star Pavilion quickly issued a wanted order. According to the information from all sides, immediately locked on to the criminal. Wanted order. The criminal is about 26 years old. Cultivation is unknown. Has the Black Dragon Divine Beast. Anyone who can provide information will get a third-grade medicinal pill. Anyone who personally captures the criminal will get a high-grade soul tool, a 5th-grade medicinal pill, and 1,000,000 gold. Be sure to capture the criminal alive. Do not kill him. Chapter 202. After Etianyan destroyed the Wong family, he quickly returned to the inn. This time he did not get kidnapped again. The Wong family was the only one that Etianyan had a grudge against. So, after the Wong family was eradicated, no one would cause trouble for them. Aldri, are you all right? They looked at Etianyan from head to toe, their eyes full of worry. Although Etianyan did not say where he was going, they could imagine what Etianyan was going to do. What could happen to me? Etianyan smiled and looked around, but Rin Jiro wasn't in the room. Where is Miss Rin? Etianyan asked in surprise. Miss Rin is standing outside. I don't know what she is thinking about. She keeps mumbling something, Iyue said, pointing in the direction of the balcony. Etianyan nodded and walked to the balcony. Rinjiro looked into the distance, but Etianyan didn't know what she was looking for. Miss Rin, what are you thinking about? Etianyan asked with a smile. I remembered something. When I was fighting just now, I remembered something. I remembered where my home is. Rinjiro did not turn her head to look at him. She just looked into the distance. You remember? Etianyan smiled. Then you finally know that I am not your brother, right? Well, I remember something. You are not my brother. Rinjiro smiled brightly. She turned to look at him and said, but I still feel that you are very close. You are like my brother. This time, my brother did not wait for me to wake up. I don't know what happened. Etienne nodded and guessed. It is very likely that something happened. The secret room has not been cleaned for a long time. Obviously, no one has been here for a long time. Well, then I should go back. I vaguely remember something and know what I should do. Rinjiro turned her head and looked into the distance. It's getting late. I should leave. Thank you for taking care of me these past few days. Are you leaving just like that? Etienne paused for a moment before he asked, Do you need my help? There's no need. Some things are better dealt with by myself. Rinjiro smiled brightly and said, Brother, I'll be going now. If fate wills it, we will meet again. After saying that, she leaped up and an invisible pair of wings unfurled from her back, bringing her up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared into the horizon. This was the power of a core transformation stage cultivator. They could condense their own energy into a pair of spiritual wings, which allowed them to fly. She was at the 5th level of the core transformation stage. She was even stronger than the old ancestor of the Qing Xin mansion. One could imagine what kind of power she belonged to. Ding! Successfully activated Hidden Chain Quest. Help the Empire's Goddess. Reward: 50 million EXP, 1 million Crazy Point, 200 Rinjiro's Favorability, Imperial Guardian Goddess title. Note: you can choose the quest to help the Empire's Goddess. Etienne was startled by the quest that popped up. Rinjiro is the Empire's Goddess? But thinking about it carefully, it's not surprising that she's the Empire's Goddess. The reward is also very generous. This is the second time he encountered a quest that could change the world. Obviously, the level of the Empire's quest is even more amazing. He doesn't know if he can participate in it or not. That's why it's specially marked, saying that he can choose whether to help or not. If he participates, it will not only affect the world, but also affect his own situation. It was like helping Yi Qingxian meant that he would have to contend with the Netherworld Empire. Obviously, this would affect his own strength. If he just saves her, it may change the world. As long as he doesn't participate, he won't be in danger. The Empire's Goddess. No wonder she rejected me. She probably thinks that I can't help her at all. Etienne shook his head and returned to his room. Iyue and the others looked at Etienne and asked, What happened to Rinjiro? She already went back. Etienne smiled and said, It's time for us to go back to Heavenly Jade Sect. Let's send you two back first. They all nodded. They knew that Etienne had a lot of things to do. If they followed him, they would be a burden. It would be best for them to go back to Heavenly Jade Sect. Immediately, Etienne walked out with them. Along the way, there was a lot of noise from the people around them. Then they saw that there was a gold wanted poster on the side. It meant that the reward was very high. This Wang family is gone? Although they were prepared for this, they were still shocked. Especially when they saw the word Black Dragon. Their hearts skipped a beat. They knew that their elder had gone to destroy the Wang family. In order to avenge them, the entire Wang family was wiped out. They were so touched that they didn't know what to say. Yushuan finally saw how powerful Etienne was. It didn't take him long to destroy the Wang family. Let's go. There's nothing to see. Etienne smiled, as if it had nothing to do with him. He led them out of Heavenly New City. When they came to the suburbs, Etienne hugged them. This action scared them. Elder Yi is taking advantage of us? Their faces were red, but they didn't struggle. After all, Etienne saved them and gave them freedom. So what if he took advantage of them? But they misunderstood. Etienne didn't think much of it. He said, Hold on tight, we're going to fly back. What? Suddenly, Etienne stepped on the ground, and the phoenix wings behind him trembled, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the sky. He didn't ride the Black Dragon. Instead, he used the phoenix wings and quickly flew back to Heavenly Jade Sect. The Black Dragon was now on the wanted list, so to be on the safe side, he used the phoenix wings to fly. Elder you can fly? Have you broken through to the core transformation stage? They are deeply shocked. Only those who can fly are able to break through to core transformation stage. This means that Etienne reached core transformation stage at such a young age. It is incredible. Not at the moment. Tianyin said with a smile. Hold on tight. We will soon return to Heavenly Jade Sect. Just be patient. The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but chuckle. Previously, they thought that Tianyin was flirting with them, but now it seems that it wasn't the case at all. Tianyin flew them back with him. Chapter 203. Under the lead of Tianyin, they quickly returned to Heavenly Jade Sect. The speed of the Phoenix Wings is not much slower than the speed of the Black Dragon. However, to be able to unleash the true power of the Phoenix Wings, one must be at least at the core transformation stage. Now it can only fly, but it doesn't increase the speed. But if it is used on a core transformation stage cultivator, it will be 3 times faster. Their flying speed will be amazing. Here we are. Tianyin put them down and walked into Heavenly Jade Sect. Heavenly Jade Sect looks the same as before. On the contrary, there are more disciples than before. Elder Zhu. When they saw Tianyin and Yue, they all called out to them. From now on, you could just call me Elder Yu. If you all call me Elder E, it will be confusing. Yue chuckled. She already used Tianyin's surname. If they call each other like before, it will be easy to confuse them. Okay, Elder Yu. They didn't think too much about it and changed the way they address each other. Tianyin shook his head. It's up to them, but since the Zhu family chose to abandon them, then they don't need to use the surname Zhu anymore. It's just that it's a bit embarrassing to use his surname. Z is also good. Of course, it's up to them. Tianyin doesn't want to interfere too much. When they went in, Shuyin came out and smiled when she saw Tianyin. You're back? I'm back. Tianyin smiled and introduced. This is Elder Zhu. No, she already used my surname. Anyway, this is her sister Yushuan. Greetings, Palace Master. Yushuan bowed slightly and said respectfully, Don't be too restrained. Just be casual here. Shuyin smiled at Yushuan, then turned to Tianyin and said, Aren't you going to tell me about the situation? Shortly after, Tianyin explained to Shuyin. Yue and the others also explained to him, and only then did Shuyin understand the process. It was a little messy to have the names change back and forth, but when he thought about the reason, it was understandable. That's about it. Aunt, I plan to let her become an elder of Jade Sect, but I'm afraid there will be some objections, so she should start as a deacon first, and when she has established her prestige, she will become an elder. Tianyin, of course, didn't get this treatment just because she is Yue's sister. He knew that Yushuan wasn't weak. If she didn't have any power, she wouldn't be able to help. Elder E, there is no need for that. I just want to help my sister. I don't want to have any status here. I am already very happy that Heavenly Jade Sect is willing to take me in. Yushuan said this from the bottom of her heart. She doesn't want to have any status here. She is very touched that Heavenly Jade Sect is willing to take her in. Don't talk nonsense. As long as you have the ability, I will give you what you deserve. Shuyin smiled and said. Then it's decided. Let's start with the deacon position. Thank you, Palace Lord. Yushuan's beautiful eyes twinkled. She naturally doesn't mind becoming a deacon. She will definitely do her best. After the arrangement, Shuyin rolled her eyes at him and snorted. You are quite capable. Every time you come back, you always bring back a woman, and they are all very talented. It seems that you are quite good at abducting people. Why didn't I see it before? This? Aunt? Don't make it sound so bad. How did I abduct them? Tianyin said helplessly. Humph. Shuyin reached out and knocked his head, smiled and said, But it's good that you can come back. Don't ask for anything. It's enough that you can come back safely. Tianyin nodded and immediately said in surprise, Aunt, you broke through? In a blink of an eye, Shuyin actually broke through to Spirit Core stage. This speed is really monstrous. Isn't that for sure? If I don't break through quickly, wouldn't I be letting down the title of Palace Lord? Shuyin smiled. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I am here. Tianyin said worriedly. Even if I have you, I still have to become stronger, otherwise how can I support the whole Heavenly Jade Sect? Shuyin smiled. You can't just rely on yourself. How can the whole Heavenly Jade Sect be strong? During this period of time, the situation has improved a lot, many disciples have broken through. It seems that it won't take too long to reach the top level of second-grade faction. Etienne nodded and immediately remembered something. He took out a few storage rings and said, "These are the spoils of war I got from outside. Aunt, take them and distribute them as you see fit. I don't know much about these things." He took out the storage ring and the treasures he looted from the Wang family and gave them to Shuyan. Although some of these things can be sold for a good amount of crazy points, he still chose to hand them over. The most important thing now is to make the whole Heavenly Jade sect stronger. After Shuyan took the storage ring, she didn't look at what is inside. Instead, she stared at him. "What's wrong? Don't you want to see what is inside?" Etienne motioned her to take a look. "There are a lot of good things inside." "Silly." Shuyan gently hugged him as if she was hugging a child. But in fact, Etienne's body is bigger than her. "You are too hard-working. It's nothing as long as it's for Heavenly Jade sect. For Aunt, everything is worth it." Etienne reached out and gently hugged Shuyan. His eyes flashed. Even if there are a lot of women around him, for him, Shuyan is worth it. "It seems that you have completely grown up. You are no longer the Tianyun who needs my protection." Shuyan came out of his arms and smiled. "Isn't that natural? I will definitely grow up. In the future, I will be the one to protect you." Etienne smiled. After a simple exchange, the two immediately went to do their own things. There are a lot of things that need to be done, so the time to communicate is still relatively limited. Etienne came to the gate, ready to start repairing the 5th-level defensive array. "Master, are you going to repair this 5th-level defensive array?" Old Xian suddenly appeared at this time. "Is there a problem?" Etienne smiled. If the repair fails, it is easy to cause problems, so when Old Xian spoke, Etienne has almost repaired the array. After completely repaired, he looked up and said, "If the repair fails, it is easy to cause problems. What kind of problems?" Chapter 204. After Etienne repaired the 5th-grade Great Array, the situation of the entire heavens immersing ancient ruins has been greatly improved, especially the defensive array of the gate. It has been completely strengthened. "Very good. I didn't expect that after the repair, unless a core transformation stage cultivator came. Otherwise, no one can break it." Etienne was shocked by this effect. Core transformation stage cultivators can't break it, but it's not impossible. It would take at least a few years to break it. If you want to break this defense, you need to be at least a core transformation stage cultivator to break it, and it will take a long time to break it. It's worthy of being the great array that Spirit King Xian Tian invited. If it was restored to its original state, ordinary core transformation stage cultivators wouldn't be able to break it. Finally, this defensive array is repaired. Even if I'm not here for a long time, this place will be safe. Etienne nodded. He felt a lot more at ease. Old Xian, who was next to him, was stunned. The entire defensive array of the heavens immersing ancient ruins has been repaired. The only thing left is the flying array. If a divine rune master were to repair it, then the entire heavens immersing ancient ruins would no longer be an ancient ruins, but a heavens immersing shrine. "Master, you really can repair this array? I couldn't repair it before." Although Old Xian created it, he still has a little bit of knowledge. According to the knowledge he has, it is absolutely incredible that Etienne can repair this defensive array at such a young age. Even the previous master did not have this kind of ability. He didn't have much talent in divine rune engraving. He had to ask someone to help him. "I can do it with a little practice." Etienne smiled. Okay, Old Xian was immediately speechless. He felt that this is really incredible. After the repair, Etienne stayed in Heavenly Jade sect for a few days. He found that the sect was well managed. The disciples were quickly trained. The number of spirit refinement stage disciples suddenly increased a lot. Even the number of core condensation stage disciples increased a lot. Everything was developing in a positive direction. If this continued, a large rank 2 faction would develop just like that. However, it was still too far away from a 3rd-grade force. It needed a lot of spirit core cultivators. Currently, there were only 2 of them. One was Etienne and the other was Shuyan. It seems like there are no problems here. Under their management, there won't be any problems. Etienne wasn't an expert in this aspect, so he could only watch from the side. While he was walking around the Jade Sect, he suddenly saw Jiu Lingyun sitting in a cultivation room with a divine rune brush in her hand. Inscribing divine runes requires patience and concentration. Jiu Lingyun was teaching everyone in front of her. She taught the newbies every stroke, teaching them how to get started. Currently, Jiu Lingyun was already capable of handling matters independently. Her attainments in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions had already reached the level of a second-grade Divine Inscriptionist. This was all thanks to Yue. She had specially strengthened each disciple's situation and tailored their specialties according to their situation. Those who were good at inscribing divine runes were arranged to come here. Tianyan nodded and didn't disturb them. It was the same for the other cultivation rooms. They were all used to nurture other disciples, developing them in an all-round manner. It's time to leave. He was going to Heaven's Top Mansion alone. He had planned to go to Heaven's Top Mansion before, but he had delayed it long enough. Especially since the General Pavilion had invited him to attend the VIP banquet. He was in a rush. After saying goodbye to Shi Shuiyun, Tianyun equipped the Phoenix Wings and quickly left for the direction of Heaven's Top Mansion. The area where Heaven's Top Mansion was located was not far. After asking for directions, he quickly went there. After almost 2 days of rushing, he finally arrived at the main hall of Heaven's Top Mansion. Tianyan looked at the magnificent building in front of him and couldn't help but nod. The foundation of Heaven's Top Mansion was very good. Just the gate alone looked very imposing. After all, it was a third-grade force. As for why it declined, it was said that the internal resources were empty and the disciples didn't have many breakthroughs, which led to a sharp decline in popularity. From the looks of it, it might be a golden jade on the outside, but the inside would probably be more ordinary. Who are you? When he was about to go in, the disciple outside immediately stopped him. I'm looking for Miss Qianan, Tianyan said. Do you have a recommendation token? The disciple asked. Yes. Tianyan took out the token, and after the disciple saw it, he nodded. Well, you can go directly to the Heavenly Rune Palace to register. After walking for a while, turn left and you will see it. The disciple immediately let Tianyan in. When he walked in, the disciple outside shook his head again. Deacon, he went to recommend another disciple. I don't know what kind of trash it is this time. If it's like the previous one, then it's really unfortunate. Forget it. Deacon, he is also doing this for the good of Heaven's Top Mansion. I'm afraid that she will recommend some garbage. Tianyun's ears moved. Does Qianhan often recommend disciples? After walking through a long corridor, he officially entered the inner hall. When he just arrived, there were many disciples coming and going. A few of them are at least 5th-level spirit refinement realm. Those with a higher cultivation base were generally not bad. When these disciples saw Tianyun, they just glanced at him and ignored him. Tianyun didn't bother to pay attention to them. After walking for a while, he saw the Heavenly Rune Palace. There are many disciples coming and going. After entering, there are many disciples in the Heavenly Rune Palace. All of them are accepting tasks. In fact, this is the task hall, an area for accepting tasks. There is a task point for accepting tasks, and the level of the task will naturally be higher, and the reward will naturally be higher. Heaven's Top Mansion will not raise a group of lazy disciples. Every month, they have to do some tasks. If they don't meet the requirements, they will be punished. In this case, it is a sustainable development path for the sect. But he didn't come here to choose a task, but to look for someone. He glanced in front of him and saw the person reporting to him. Then he took the token and walked over. But when he just walked over there, he suddenly froze, because the person who handed over the token is none other than the woman he saved before, Yang Shishue. However, he quickly made up his mind and gave the token to Yang Shishue. This is the token that Deacon he gave me. She told me to look for her. Tianyun said as he handed the token to Deacon he. Deacon he recommended you? Yang Shishue glanced at it casually. She didn't look at it carefully, but looked up at him for a while and said in amazement. So young? What's the problem? Tianyun asked. There is no problem, I just think that you are too young. Why would Deacon he recommend a young man? She stood up and said. Her voice was almost pitiful, but he still heard it. Let's go. I will take you to the assessment. What assessment? Etienne was stunned. He came here to look for someone, not an assessment. Chapter 205. You don't even know about the assessment? Didn't Deacon he tell you that she recommended you to take the assessment? Then you can join Heavenly Rune Pavilion, a place dedicated to practicing divine runes. Yang Shishua looked at him in confusion. Of course, he knew about this. The problem was that he didn't come to take the assessment, but to see Qianan. Is Deacon he here? Etienne asked. Deacon he hasn't come back yet. If you want to find her, you will have to wait for a while. But it's useless to find her. If you can't pass the assessment, you can't join Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Yang Shishua frowned and said, I'm going back to Heavenly Rune Pavilion, so I can take you to the assessment. If you pass the assessment, you have to call me senior sister. Yang Shishua's beautiful lips curved into a smile, and the serious feeling suddenly disappeared. Senior sister? Etienne looked at Yang Shishua from head to toe. It's a bit funny that she became his senior sister. I'll go with senior sister. Etienne thought for a moment, and immediately changed his mind. Originally, he wanted to report his identity, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. It's better to go with her to see the situation here. He wanted to see the internal situation of Heaven's top mansion. After you pass the assessment, you can call me that. Yang Shishua's face became serious again. Thinking that the boy in front of her hasn't passed the assessment yet, it's better to maintain a serious expression. Etienne shrugged helplessly and let Yang Shishua do as she pleases. Anyway, it's just a greeting. Immediately, Yang Shishua took him to Heavenly Rune Pavilion. After a circle, they walked to the back of the mountain. In front of them, there was a dense forest. It looked very ordinary. Shishua, what are you doing? At this time, two young men appeared from behind and stared at Etienne beside Yang Shishua as if they were looking at a rival in love. This name alone made Etienne feel a bit strange. Yang Shishua frowned and corrected them. Please don't call me that intimately, so as not to cause a misunderstanding. You are my fiancé. Why can't I call you that? Feng Yulong squinted his eyes and smiled, but when he looked at Etienne, who was standing beside Yang Shishua, he showed a disgusted expression, as if he had just swallowed a fly. Feng Yulong, let me warn you, this was decided by Father and the others. It has nothing to do with me, unless you surpass me in terms of inscribing divine runes. For me, I will only marry a man who is stronger than me, and not a man who is weaker than me. Yang Shishua's eyes were ice cold. She was very unhappy with Feng Yulong. At the side, Etienne's eyes lit up. This woman really had a goal, but what she said was pretty good. If the man was weaker than her, what right did he have to marry her? This made him understand Yang Shishua's temperament. A cold glint flashed past Feng Yulong's eyes, but he had to admit that he was weaker than Yang Shishua in all aspects. This is the decision of the two families. Do you think it is the right decision to tear apart the relationship between the two families? Feng Yulong sneered. I advise you to think about this carefully. Speaking of which, what's up with this brat? Why are you together with him? Men couldn't conquer women. When he saw the woman standing together with another man, the flames of jealousy in his heart rose higher and higher. Yang Shishua, mean what I say. We will talk about it when you are stronger than me. Yang Shishua indifferently said, he is a new junior brother recommended by Deacon He. He is preparing to undergo the test. If there are no problems, you guys can leave. Someone recommended by Deacon He? Feng Yulong and the others looked at Etienne, sizing him up. They were somewhat doubtful. Are you sure you are not mistaken? Feng Yulong sneered. He is too young. His level is definitely not that great. It would be strange if he could pass through the maze. I suspect that he is a fake. I don't know where he found the token. Let's seize the opportunity and bring him to the law enforcement hall. That's right. Since when did the Heavenly Rune Pavilion have such a young disciple? I also suspect that he is a fake. He is dressed so shabbily, I suspect that he is here to steal. Feng Yulong's companion, Liao Wen, agreed with Feng Yulong's words. One had to admit that Etienne's clothes were indeed shabbily dressed. Compared to the luxurious clothes they were wearing, it was tens of thousands of miles apart. I don't want to get involved in your matters. I just want to hurry up with the test. At your age, you might not be able to do it, but that doesn't mean others can't. There is always someone better than you. Tianyun was innocently implicated. What did this have to do with him? Even he, who was standing at the side, was dragged into this mess. He was truly speechless. Your tone is quite arrogant. Does that mean you can definitely pass through the maze? Feng Yulong's gaze turned cold as he sneered. Judging from your level, you will definitely be trapped in there for the rest of your life, right? If you can get out within an hour, I will walk upside down in the future. Big Brother Feng is right. If he can get out, I will use my head to walk for the rest of my life. Liao added. Their words weren't without reason. Those who could cultivate divine runes were all disciples of large clans. Tianyun didn't have the demeanor of a young master from a large clan. It was more likely that he was a refugee from a village. Very good. From now on, I will see you walking upside down when I go out, and he will use his head to walk. Tianyun turned to Yang Shishue and said indifferently, the test you were talking about is to pass through this maze. That's right. As long as you pass through it, it doesn't matter how long it takes. But the longer it takes, the lower the score. Yang Shishue didn't finish her explanation. Tianyun turned around and walked into the forest, quickly disappearing into it. Big Brother Feng, this kid is too arrogant. He speaks as if he can pass through it easily. Liao said angrily, let's go and see when he can get out of the maze. After saying that, the two of them walked into the maze together. Yang Shishue followed and disappeared into the maze. At the same time, Tianyun, who was the first to enter the maze, was separated from Yang Shishue and the others. Because he was already in the maze. Only by breaking this maze could he get out. Using this as the entrance was really unique. Every time he entered, he had to break this maze. But after getting used to it, it would be very easy. Maze Forest? It seems like there is such a thing, but it's still too low. In front of a 5th grade Divine Rune Master, it's really not enough. Tianyun shook his head. He didn't care about this maze at all. Chapter 206. After Tianyun found the exit, he lifted his foot and walked out of the exit. The first thing that entered his eyes was an extremely beautiful environment. Regardless of the ornaments of the fake mountains or the trees, they were all very meticulous. They looked like a single entity, and it was extremely comfortable. This was the Heavenly Rune Pavilion, a place that focused on cultivating divine runes. This was the benefit of being in a large sect. With a large number of disciples of different levels would appear. This way, it would be easy to separate them into factions. If only one person could inscribe divine runes, it would be impossible to separate them. That would be a waste of resources. Are you new? Please show me your identity token. When the guards at the entrance saw Tianyun, they were startled because he was too young. However, they wouldn't chase him away. Everything was done according to the rules. All he had to do was show his identity token. Regardless of whether he was familiar or unfamiliar, he had to show his identity token. Identity token? This is my identity token. Tianyun took out the token Ichinan gave him and said, this is my token. I wonder if it's okay? This isn't a disciple token. This is a recommendation token. It seems to be recommended by attendant. And wait, there seems to be something wrong with this token. It doesn't seem to be a recommendation token. Just as the guards were about to take a closer look, a few figures walked out of the maze forest, attracting their attention. Why are you here? At this moment, Feng Yulong and the rest had just walked in. When they saw Tianyun standing in front of them, they were stunned. Soon after, Yang Shishue walked out, and when she saw Tianyun, she was instantly dumbfounded. This speed was simply too fast. It was much faster than them. They often walked out of the maze forest, but every time they entered it, there would be slight changes. Hence, every time they entered, the time would be different. This could be considered a kind of training. They didn't expect Tianyun to be faster than them on his first try. Wasn't he a monster? The exit is right here. Why can't I be here? Am I supposed to go around? Tianyun looked at Liao indifferently and said, speaking of which, you have to use your head to walk in the future. I'm looking forward to this martial art being carried forward by you. As the old saying went, he didn't mind stepping on their faces. Since they dared to say such things, they should be waiting for the time when their faces would be slapped. This is impossible. You must have cheated. Liao Wen didn't believe in Etienne's words. He had never seen anyone who could enter for the first time so quickly. Then tell me, how do I cheat? Etienne narrowed his eyes. He was very interested to hear how the other party would say that he cheated. Etienne looked at Liao Wen with great interest. He wanted to hear how he would accuse him of cheating. You've been here before? Liao Wen said after thinking for a while. Is that so? I've been here before. How come I don't even know? Etienne indifferently said. Why don't you say that I'm a disciple of the Heavenly Rune Pavilion and that I've been here before? As expected, your head is only used to walk. Liao Wen's face turned red. He pointed at Etienne in anger, but he didn't know what to say to refute. They all knew who the disciples of the Heavenly Rune Pavilion were. These guards must have seen who had entered before. To put it bluntly, Liao Wen just didn't want to admit it. Etienne really came in, and his speed was even faster than them. This time, Liao Wen had to use his head to walk. You're saying that this is his first time here, and his speed is even faster than you guys? The guards at the side understood what Liao Wen meant. They were all shocked. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? This was the first time he came in, and his speed was even faster than Yang Shishue and the others. They were ranked at the top here, but he was still faster than them. Wasn't this heaven-defying? Moreover, he looked so young. This was simply terrifying. Yes, he's even faster than us. Yang Shishue looked at Etienne with a complicated gaze. It seems like the person recommended by attendant. He isn't as weak as before. He can't even pass the maze. The content of the maze was mental energy and perception. Although the difficulty wasn't too high, it definitely wouldn't be easy. At the very least, it wouldn't be the kind that could be passed in just one round. One would have to put in some effort. They didn't expect Etienne to pass so quickly. This greatly exceeded their expectations. I wonder if I passed the test? Etienne smiled. Of course, there's no problem. Yang Shishue smiled. Moreover, you're very outstanding. Welcome to the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Back then, when she first came in, she had to spend several hours before she could pass. But now, Etienne easily defeated her. The difference was too great. You have some ability, but your tone is too arrogant. Feng Yulong coldly snorted. He turned around and left with Liao Wen. When he passed by Etienne, he coldly said, in the Heavenly Rune Pavilion, this level isn't enough. You better be careful. Don't touch things you shouldn't touch, or I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. He was warning Etienne not to get too close to Yang Shishue. Otherwise, he would deal with Etienne. However, Etienne wasn't interested in her. He was just unhappy with her threatening words. Who did she think she was? Wait a minute, you didn't walk backwards. Also, you didn't walk with your head. It's time to fulfill your promise. Etienne didn't mind exposing their previous promise. Now, it seemed like it was nothing more than a fart. Do you want to die? Feng Yulong's gaze was ice-cold. Previously, he only looked down on Etienne. Who would have thought that Etienne would actually pass in 2 hours? Moreover, he was so much faster than them. Feng Yulong, you don't even have this little bit of magnanimity? Moreover, these words were said by you guys just now. Yang Shishue felt somewhat dissatisfied when she saw how Feng Yulong threatened Etienne. She wasn't related to Etienne, but she was very unhappy with Feng Yulong's arrogance. She didn't like Feng Yulong because he was too arrogant and didn't know how to restrain himself. He was extremely possessive and competitive. Whoever provoked him, he wouldn't rest until they were dead. Oh, you're still protecting this trash? Feng Yulong shook his head. His eyes were filled with flames as he coldly laughed. Don't worry, I won't do anything to him. This is the Heavenly Rune Pavilion, not a mountain village. You can't randomly duel. I know what I'm doing. These words made Etienne frown. The situation in the sect was rather bad. It seemed like there were disciples from other clans joining them. In a situation where they weren't united, the entire sect had no future to speak of. Chapter 207. What can I say? Feng Yulong sneered. What can I say? If I want to say it, What can you do to me? Do you have the ability to duel with me? No, I just want to say that since you made a promise, you should fulfill it. Tianyun said indifferently. For me, there are some words that cannot be said casually. Oh, it seems that you are quite arrogant. If you have the ability, then let's duel now. Feng Yulong immediately became angry. He did not expect this new disciple to be so arrogant. No problem, we can start now, you can start first. Tianyun said with a gesture of invitation. Good, good, good. Feng Yulong sneered 3 times. Then, he quickly waved his palm and slapped down with his strongest strength. He slapped directly at his opponent's head, not holding back at all. If he is hit, even if he doesn't die, he will become an idiot. Pa! But Tianyun's palm was faster than him, and he slapped Feng Yulong hard. Feng Yulong was sent flying and rolled forward dozens of times before stopping. At this time, his mouth was swollen, and many of his teeth were broken. This scene made everyone stunned, although Feng Yulong's cultivation is not very strong, but he is at least at 7th level spirit refinement, and he was sent flying by a slap? Doesn't this mean that the boy in front of them is stronger than Feng Yulong? Feng Yulong was slapped by Tianyun's hand, and he didn't know where he was. Feng Yulong's head immediately tilted, and he fainted. This slap was not light, but it was not heavy, at least it didn't kill him. If he didn't hold back, Feng Yulong's head would have been smashed by his slap. You dare to hit Brother Feng? Liaowen rushed over to help Feng Yulong, pointed at Tianyun, and said, You will die miserably. Oh, I'll wait, Tianyun said indifferently. After Feng Yulong was taken away, Yang Shishua said in shock, You hit him? This way, the Feng family will come looking for trouble with you. Also, there are many of his friends in the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. It's fine. No matter how many of them come at me, I'll take them on, Tianyun said calmly. This is all my fault. Because of me, this happened to you. I will deal with this matter. Yang Shishua's expression was solemn. This matter was definitely related to her. If it wasn't for her, Feng Yulong naturally wouldn't have mocked Tianyun. If something happened to Tianyun because of her, she would never forgive herself. It's okay, I don't care. Tianyun shook his head. He didn't care about Feng Yulong at all. He had seen too many people like him. It seemed like it was a misunderstanding that caused him trouble. But with his arrogant attitude, no matter who he faced, he would cause trouble. No wonder there weren't any new disciples joining. With just this group of beasts, how many newcomers wouldn't be scared away by them? Even if they weren't scared away, their legs would be broken. Even if Yang Shishua wasn't present, he believed that Feng Yulong would find trouble with him later. With Feng Yulong's character, as long as there was a little threat, he would eliminate them as enemies. As long as there was competition, this kind of thing would happen. Immediately, Yang Shishua led him into Heavenly Rune Pavilion and began to arrange his residence. She also handed him an identity token. It was engraved with his name and where he belonged. In the entire Heaven's Top Mansion, there were identity tokens. These identity tokens were made by Heavenly Rune Pavilion and could not be counterfeited. If it was lost, it would be troublesome. An official disciple would become an outer disciple. This was a sex representative. If it was lost, he would be severely punished. After everything was done, Yang Shishua went to do her own things. She was not familiar with Tianyun, so there was no need for her to stay here. Previously, Tianyun was wearing a mask, so Yang Shishua didn't know about him, so they didn't talk much. If Tianyun was wearing that mask, she would definitely be scared. Tianyun didn't stay here for a while, so he went out of the room. He didn't really want to become a disciple here. He just wanted to see the overall situation. At least he didn't have a good impression of Feng Yulong when he first came in. It was really a case of a mouse spoiling a pot of soup. If there were more arrogant disciples like Feng Yulong, then the sect would be really unfortunate. Competition was a good thing, but this kind of competition was vicious. If a person was ruthless in a duel, then he would be half crippled. After coming out, Tianyun found that the surrounding people were looking at him. Some of them were looking at him strangely. Most of them didn't believe him. Hey boss, I heard that the first time you came in, you broke a record and also severely beat Feng Yulong. It's really amazing. I didn't like that guy for a long time. You really had a good time beating him. At this time, a youth flashed from the side, rubbed his hands and smiled. His smile was quite amiable. Yi Tianyun wasn't surprised by this. Feng Yulong and the others definitely wouldn't say anything, but the mouths of the guards wouldn't be idle. They would definitely spread the news everywhere. All of a sudden, the entire Heavenly Pattern Pavilion knew about it, causing them to be extremely shocked. They even doubted the authenticity of the news. They suspected that this was Yi Tianyun's first time here, but that didn't mean that he couldn't practice outside. After all, this maze forest wasn't a very difficult formation. It was just a little simulation outside. However, some believed it, some didn't believe it, but none of them had any intention of coming over to chat. He had provoked Feng Yulong. It should be said that he had ruthlessly beaten up Feng Yulong. This wasn't something that could be easily resolved. Feng Yulong had a very high status here. His level wasn't bad, so naturally, no one dared to talk to him or befriend him. However, this young man wasn't afraid. He directly came over to talk to him, as if he was an acquaintance. I think someone should have broken this record before, right? Yi Tianyun didn't think that his speed was really the limit. There is indeed someone faster than you. However, your age is at least in the top 3. You look too young. Tell me, how old are you this year? The fatty asked. He wasn't surprised by the fatty's answer. There were many geniuses, so it wasn't surprising that someone could leave faster. Those who were younger than him were also not surprising. Those who were born as monsters, their mental strength talent was terrifying. I'm 17 years old this year, almost 18. Yi Tianyun thought for a moment. That was the approximate age. Good boy. Your bone age is only 17 years old. The young man rubbed his palms and said excitedly, I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Yang Yu, and I'm ranked 83 in the Heavenly Pattern Pavilion. We all know your name, Yi Tianyun. It's really a good name. Yi Tianyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Yang Yu was really familiar with him, but he was very interested in this ranking. I wonder what my current rank is? Yi Tianyun asked. We'll know when we go to the plaza. Come with me. Yang Yu brought Yi Tianyun to the plaza. Here, he saw a stone tablet with many wooden plates hanging on it. All of them were names. Yi Tianyun glanced over and saw his name hanging on the 81st place, a few places higher than Yang Yu. There weren't many people in the entire Heavenly Pattern Pavilion. In total, there were only 133 people. He was in the limelight, but he was only ranked 81st. This ranking was very important. It was related to the resources one could obtain. The maze array test was the ranking test. The higher the ranking, the more resources one would obtain. Therefore, everyone was fighting for this ranking. Of course, this didn't mean much to him. Even if he was ranked first, it was a matter of course for him. 5th grade Divine Rune Master, who here could have this rank? He just came in and strolled around. Chapter 208. 81st, huh? That's a little low. Yi Tianyun was still not satisfied. He thought he could be higher, but he was still at the back. Although he didn't care much about this ranking and didn't plan to become a disciple here, it was indeed a little low for him to only be ranked 81st with his speed. Boss, you still think it's low? Yang Yu showed a smile that was uglier than crying and almost knelt down. I've been here for so long, and I'm only ranked 83rd. You still think it's low? I'm already much higher than others. Okay, at least I'm not at the bottom. Yi Tianyun knew the rules of the ranking. If the ranking was determined by breaking through the maze quickly, it would be unfair for him to be ranked first. This was a comprehensive test. Just based on breaking through the maze, he was ranked 81st. It wasn't because he was strong, but because he had great potential. That was why he was ranked 81st. I'm just saying. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently. Others don't dare to approach me. It's probably because of Feng Yulong. But you dare to approach me. What's your purpose? He glanced at the ranking on the stone tablet. Feng Yulong was ranked 30th, and Yang Shishue was ranked 22nd. It seemed that their rankings were quite high. Yang Shishue rejected Feng Yulong. Now it seemed that he had the capital to be ranked 23rd among so many geniuses. It was a shocking standard. I don't have any purpose. I just want to get to know you. He rubbed his palms and chuckled. It seemed that his motive was simple. If you don't want to say it, I won't force you. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. You can wander around by yourself. Tianyun didn't pay attention to him. He turned and walked out. Wait, I'll say it. Yang Yu was afraid of Tianyun. He wouldn't eat anything. Oh, tell me? Tianyun smiled faintly. Actually, I have a grudge against Feng Yulong, but I can't beat him. You can torture him ruthlessly. This is really to my liking. Yang Yu smiled. Let's be friends. I know everything about Heavenly Rune Pavilion and even the entire Heaven's Top Mansion. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Looks like you're quite knowledgeable about information. Tianyun's interest was piqued. Of course, there's no one in the entire Heaven's Top Mansion that I don't know. I even know what's going on outside. Our Yang family collects information. Whatever you want to know, I can find out for you. Yang Yu smiled confidently. What's your relationship with Yang Shishue? Tianyun asked. She's my sister. Yang Yu smiled and said, that Feng Yulong isn't worthy of being my brother-in-law. Moreover, the Feng family is becoming more and more arrogant. Their relationship with our family is getting worse. It would be best if you could beat him up, but you have to be careful. The Feng family will definitely not let you go, and the other people in Heavenly Rune Pavilion will not let you go. I can't help much, but I will tell you all the information, whether it's the escape route, who will have a grudge against you, or who will come to deal with you. I will tell you in advance. This was a perfect friend to provide information, but it didn't mean much to him. That's not necessary. I know what I'm doing. In the face of his absolute power, all schemes and plots were trash. You're that confident? Yang Yu was shocked. His words were really full of himself. It's okay. Tianyun smiled and said, by the way, where can I find some good geniuses here? This? Go to Tianhan Tower. You can find good geniuses in Tianhan Tower. Do you want to fight with them? Yang Yu was shocked. No, I'm just going to walk around. Tianyun smiled and said, I'm going to Tianhan Tower now. Do you want to come with me? Yes, of course I'm going. Yang Yu seemed to smell something. What he didn't know was that Tianyun was going to see if there were any geniuses worth poaching. Then the two of them walked into Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Soon, they arrived at the Tianhan Tower in Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Since Heavenly Rune Pavilion had a high status, there would be good resources here. The Tianhan Tower was one of them. The entire Tianhan Tower had a total of 5 levels. The higher the level, the more spiritual energy was needed. Correspondingly, the effects of cultivation would be stronger and stronger. Not only could it cultivate spiritual energy, but it could also increase one's cultivation. It could be said to be a double improvement. However, there was a time limit. Depending on the ranking, the number of days would vary. As Tianyun had just joined, he would be given an additional number of days. But it wouldn't be too much, about 5 more days. Combined with his ranking, it would add up to 10 days, which wasn't much at all. This is the Tianhan Tower. It's really impressive. Tianyun looked up and saw that the towering divine tower was made of a special profound heavenly stone, which locked the spiritual power inside, making it airtight. Except for the door in front of him, there was no other exit. After he walked in, he immediately felt a heavy pressure on his head. He didn't even go upstairs, but he already felt the pressure on his head through the thick Xintian pressing on his body. This pressure is really good. It's a good place for those with low cultivation. Tianyun nodded. The Heaven's Top Mansion's foundation was really not bad. Although it had declined, it was still not weak. A good place for cultivation could be said to be twice the result with half the effort. It was the magic weapon for those with low talent to catch up with those with high talent. Of course, Tianhan Tower is an excellent place for us to cultivate. It's just that it's a bit restrictive. If you don't have enough days, you can't enter at all. Yang Yu said with pity, my days have already been used up. Otherwise, I would go in with you to cultivate. After going in, he saw an old man sitting on the side. Yang Yu smiled and said, Deacon Huang, we are here to cultivate. Without waiting for Tianyun to say anything, Yang Yu went over to greet him. Immediately, Tianyun took out the identity token and handed it over. If he wanted to go up to cultivate, he needed this identity token. The old man, who was sitting leisurely to the side, took the identity token and glanced at him indifferently. He said with a smile, You're the newcomer who has caused quite a stir recently. You've created quite a good record as soon as you arrived, and your talent is not bad. This is quite interesting. Which floor do you want to cultivate on? The fifth floor. Etienne didn't think much and directly chose the highest floor. Chapter 209. Not to mention Yang Yu. Even the yellow-faced deacon was stunned when he mentioned the fifth floor. The fifth level? Deacon Huang was startled and then smiled. You're really ambitious. You dare to challenge the fifth level without experiencing the effects of the other levels? Only the top 30 can go to the fifth level and persist. Are you sure you want to do this? If you go down, the days will be counted. Not only will you be embarrassed, but you'll also lose days. Thank you for your advice, Deacon Huang. I want to go to the fifth level and stay for 10 days. Etienne smiled. What? 10 days? Deacon Huang's eyes widened and looked at Etienne as if he was an idiot. Are you sure you want to do this? To be able to stay on the fifth floor for 10 days, only the top 15 can do it. He knew that Etienne's spiritual energy talent was good, but choosing the highest difficulty level right after coming here was not rational enough. If he chose one day, he would just bet all the days. If he couldn't persist, it would all be wasted. I'm sure I want to do this. Etienne's eyes were firm. Deacon Huang shook his head and sighed. He was only a guard and would not interfere with the choice. After all, sometimes making a wrong choice was a kind of improvement. He hoped to learn from his mistakes. This was what he said to Etienne. All right, I've recorded it. All your days have been cleared. Go to the fifth level. If you can't persist, come down. You can't go to the other levels, Deacon Huang reminded. He could only stay on the level he chose in the Heavenly Soul Tower. This was not very humane, but the rules were set. He could only stay on this level and couldn't go to the other levels. The decision was simple. It was the amulet. Once he fainted during cultivation, the amulet would shatter and protect him. Then he would be teleported down. Different levels had different amulets. They were not suitable for each other. After all, they were not the same in strength. In addition, the amulet could also gather spiritual energy. In other words, if he went in and took out the amulet, he would become the target of attacks. There would be a constant stream of spiritual energy attacks. Without this, there was no point in entering the fifth floor. As for the talismans and whatnot, they were not allowed to change either. They had to be responsible for their own choices. Who told them to choose so many in one go? Oh my God, boss. Aren't you a little too daring? The fifth floor is the privilege of the top 25. Once you enter, you'll be blasted unconscious. Are you sure you want to go? Yang Yu quickly recovered and hurriedly advised. Of course. Otherwise, why would I think you're here to play? Etienne shook his head. Why don't you try the third level first? I think this is more suitable for you, or the fourth level. Hey, don't go. Even if it's the fifth level, just experience it for a day. Why do you have to spend so many days in one go? We're done for. Yang Yu kept trying to persuade Etienne. He believed that Etienne wouldn't be able to last that long. If he fainted, it would be a loss. Is that so? If I were to faint, then I'd be overestimating myself. Etienne knew that he was being kind, but he knew his own level even better. How could a spirit core cultivator faint here? What a joke. Etienne took the talisman and went straight to the fifth floor. Through the winding stairs, he quickly arrived at the fifth floor. The higher he went, the greater the pressure. Even if there was a big formation at the door, there would still be some fluctuations coming from inside. When he arrived at the fifth floor, he stood at the door and saw a few scattered people meditating in various places on the fifth floor. Without hesitation, Etienne lifted his feet and walked inside. Yang Yu stayed outside to watch. When he came in, he immediately felt a pressure coming from all directions. After he chose a position, he took out the talisman and poured spiritual power into it. A terrifying spiritual power immediately rushed over. Of course, for him, it didn't mean anything at all. He only felt a buzzing sound in his head, and it began to be washed by the spiritual power. However, the effect was slightly worse. It didn't improve his spiritual power at all. It could only be regarded as an itch. However, there was one obvious improvement, and that was the experience. With the impact of the spiritual power, there was also a stream of pure spiritual power that continuously penetrated into his body. This was like using the spiritual power impact to penetrate into his body in one fell swoop, helping him to absorb the spiritual power. 300 EXP, 350 EXP, 340 EXP. This cultivation site was for Spirit Refinement Realm cultivators, so it was destined to not have an explosive experience effect, so he didn't even have the idea of activating crazy mode. It's really a good cultivation place. If I can put the divine runes of this Tianhun Tower in the heavens, immersing ancient ruins, I can have a special cultivation place. This is very suitable for disciples who practice divine runes. Tianyan was very satisfied with this place, not because of the effect, but because of the function here. He can take it back to the heavens, immersing ancient ruins to carve it. Although he has the memory of the spirit race, some divine runes are not suitable for carving, because the divine runes of the spirit race are too overbearing. Even the worst divine runes can only be used by core condensation cultivators. This kind of weakened version for training new disciples, on the contrary, is not in the memory. This gives him a great reference value. If he can learn it, then carve it in the heavens, immersing ancient ruins, then it will be a brand new cultivation place. At the same time, he also observed the situation around to see if there are any good disciples here. Looking up, he immediately saw an acquaintance meditating here. That is Yang Shishue. It seems that she wanted to leave before, in order to return to the Tianhun Tower to cultivate. This is the 5th floor? Yang Shishue was shocked. Tianyan has only been here for a few days. He must not have adapted to the other floors, so he chose to come to the 5th floor. As soon as Tianyan came in, many people noticed him, including Yang Shishue. A fellow disciple who just came to the Tianhun Tower not long ago actually came to the 5th floor. Is he not afraid of death? After he came in, a group of people instantly exploded. Many people looked at him with strange eyes. Some felt disdain, thinking that Tianyan is overestimating himself. Is this the new disciple who is in the limelight recently? This courage is not small. Directly coming to the 5th floor, I bet he will get out of here in less than a day. A day? I think at most half a day. I don't know how many days he booked. If it is too much, then he is an idiot. The people who are talking about the top 30 powerhouses, they all shook their heads. They're not optimistic about Tianyan. How can he be so arrogant after defeating Feng Yulong in the future? Chapter 210. Why did you come in? This place is very stressful for you. Yang Shishue hastily stood up and said, What kind of stress can there be? You can cultivate in peace. I will stroll around here. Tianyan did not sit down to meditate. Instead, he walked back and forth in the cultivation room, sizing up the divine runes on the walls. Yang Shishue did not dare to walk around casually. After helplessly looking at him, she sat down and continued to cultivate. In any case, there is no danger here. She has already persuaded him. If he does not listen, there is nothing she can do. Outside, Yang Yu is dumbstruck. Not only did Tianyan go in, he is also blindly walking around. What is the meaning of this? This matter quickly spread throughout the Heavenly Rune Pavilion, immediately attracting a wave of ridicule. He just joined the Heavenly Rune Pavilion and directly challenged the 5th floor. Moreover, it was only 10 days. Even if you have a lot of resources, you should not waste them like this. After the news spread, many disciples of the Heavenly Rune Pavilion came to watch. Among them, Jiaoping's companion Liao went to take a look. When he saw Tianyan meditating inside, his eyes flashed with cold light. He said to his companion beside him, Boss Jia, this is the brat who beat up Brother Feng. Jiaoping said with sneer. How long has he been in there? It seems to be about 2 hours. The disciple beside him said, after being stunned for a moment. 2 hours, huh? Jiaoping sneered. He immediately turned around and walked down the stairs. After which, he also took out a protective talisman. Only with this protective talisman could they enter. Otherwise, they could only watch from the outside. After receiving the talisman, he stepped into the hall. He was ranked 24th, and Deacon Huang said that only those who were ranked within the top 30 would be able to stay here for a long time. The long time mentioned here meant that it would take at least a few days. It is not worth it to not stay here for a few days. Boss, someone went in to cause trouble for you. At this time, Yang Yu suddenly shouted inside. Liao Wen coldly looked at him and said in cold voice, Yang Yu, are you trying to go against us? What do you mean go against us? I just casually shouted. Is there a problem? Yang Yu is not afraid of them. At this time, Jia Ping came in front of Yi Tianyun and said in a deep voice, Brat, I've taken a fancy to this seat. Scram to the side. Normally, people who came here would not disturb other people's cultivation. Jia Ping specially came here to take revenge for Feng Yulong, not to cultivate. Yi Tianyun raised his head and looked at Jia Ping coldly. Didn't your master teach you that disturbing other people's cultivation is equivalent to murdering for money? I'm sorry, but I don't have a master. I've taken a liking to this position. If you want to cultivate, then scram. Jia Ping's skin was that thick. He wouldn't attack, but he could interfere with Yi Tianyun's cultivation. Jia Ping, that's enough. Aren't you afraid that others will laugh at you for disturbing someone else's cultivation? Yang Shishue couldn't stand it any longer and stood up to criticize him. Yang Shishue, what's your relationship with him? Why are you speaking up for him? Jia Ping said coldly, your fiancé is lying on the bed, but you don't even look at him. Isn't this too heartless? I'm just speaking the truth. If this spreads, you'll only embarrass the Jia family. He has nothing to do with me, and he's not my fiancé. Yang Shishue said in a deep voice. A proper duel is the way for a man to solve problems, not these dirty tricks. She couldn't stand this kind of thing. A proper man was a real man. If he interfered like this, it would be a joke. What's the difference between him and a hooligan? Duel, of course I want to duel. Jia Ping looked at Yi Tianyun and sneered. Are you willing to accept my challenge and duel with me? Duel? I'm not interested. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. I just want to cultivate here. The rest has nothing to do with me. These words made Jia Ping almost explode. He didn't expect that his request would be rejected so easily. You coward! Jia Ping sneered. Everyone look, I want to duel with him like a man. But he rejected me. The crowd outside immediately booed. They felt that Yi Tianyun was a coward and was unwilling to duel. Yi Tianyun sized him up and said indifferently, How do you want to duel? Very good, you finally accepted my duel. Jia Ping's eyes lit up as he sneered. Aren't you the fastest to break the array? You even chose 10 days. How about this? I'll compete with you in mental power. Whoever can stay here longer will win. How about it? No problem, but what about the punishment for winning or losing? Yi Tianyun said indifferently. If I lose, I'll be at your disposal. If you lose, you'll be at my beck and call. You'll be at my beck and call for 1 year. How about it? Jia Ping said confidently. There's no need for that. You're not qualified to be my follower. Yi Tianyun said indifferently. I don't ask for much. I just want to slap you and let you remember. These words immediately stunned many people. Wasn't this newcomer too overbearing? He actually dared to say such words. Although Jia Ping's ranking was not particularly high, he was at least ranked 24. He could be considered a relatively outstanding disciple. He was not qualified? Could it be that the top 10 were qualified? Good. Jia Ping was so angry that his entire body was trembling. You have guts. As long as you can beat me, not to mention 1 slap, I'll give you 2 slaps. Can we start now? He was so angry that he exploded. If it weren't for the rules, he would have already made a move on Yi Tianyun. Unless both sides decided to fight, they could not make a move in private. Otherwise, they would be severely punished. We can start. Do as you wish. Yi Tianyun indicated that he could start. Then we can start now. Jia Ping took out the talisman and sat to the side. He poured his spiritual energy into the talisman. The talisman immediately lit up and a crazy spiritual energy attack rushed towards him, causing his body to tremble slightly. It had already started. Yi Tianyun also took out the talisman and poured his spiritual energy into it. He also endured the spiritual energy attack at the side. However, Yi Tianyun did not close his eyes. He continued to look at the divine runes at the side. He did not take this battle seriously at all. Many people were watching outside, but they were not optimistic about Yi Tianyun. The reason was very simple. Yi Tianyun's ranking was too low. He was only ranked 81. He was facing Jia Ping, rank 24. There was a difference of more than 10 ranks. The rankings were not randomly arranged. In the face of such a big gap, they felt that Etienne's decision was simply crazy. The cultivation of spiritual energy was several levels more difficult than the breakthrough of one's cultivation. They would rather compete in martial arts than spiritual energy. Chapter 2:11. This battle caused a huge commotion in the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. All the disciples who were free all came over, including the attendants. This was the first time they saw someone compete in mental power, and it was Etienne, a new disciple. My God, boss is actually competing with Jia Ping's mental power. What is he playing at? Yang Yu couldn't help but smile bitterly. If Etienne lost, he would really be ordered around for a year. With Jia Ping's personality, he would definitely be ordered around like a dog, or even worse than a dog. This Etienne is too impatient. He agreed to the duel after being provoked. He's still too young. He won't even know how he died. That's right. He just joined and hasn't even stabilized himself. If he plays like this, he'll be played to death sooner or later. If he loses, he'll be played to death by Jia Ping. There's no need to wait. The surrounding people shook their heads. Young people with some ability were arrogant. They wouldn't even know when they would die by the roadside. Come, place your bets. At this moment, someone outside shouted, "Those who bet on Jia Ping, place your bets on this side. Those who bet on Etienne, place your bets on this side. The ratio is 1-3. Yo, isn't this giving away money? I'm betting on Jia Ping. Me too, 1,000 taels. I'll bet 500 taels. They all placed their entire wealth on Jia Ping. There were too few people who bet on Etienne. At most, they bet 10 taels of silver. It was just for fun. Can't you guys place your bets on this side? He can break the maze in the fastest time. Won't you consider it? The disciple who was the banker had a bitter expression. He thought he could make a fortune. If this was the case, then he would lose all his underwear. He does have some ability to break the maze. Maybe he's encountered a similar one before. That's why he could break it so quickly. Whoever places their bets on him is an idiot. I'm not an idiot. That's right. Maybe he's encountered this maze before and found a loophole. They all roared with laughter. They felt that the banker was definitely going to lose this time. I bet 3,000 taels on him. An angry roar came from the crowd. Yang Yu walked over and placed 3,000 taels on Etienne's area. I'll bet 3,000 taels on him. Yang Yu, your method of winning people's hearts isn't bad, but he's gambling his freedom. If he loses, what else can you win? A fellow disciple beside him mocked. I like it. Are you going to give it to me? Yang Yu glared at him, completely ignoring everyone else's stares. The others rolled their eyes at him. He was an idiot, so he shouldn't blame them for not advising him. Etienne and Jia Ping were both sitting in meditation, cultivating. Of course, Etienne continued to observe the divine inscription. The appraisal, I had already imprinted a portion of the divine inscription into his mind, and if he continued like this, he would be able to fully possess the divine inscription. Time passed quickly. Half a day had passed, and neither of them made any moves. Very quickly, a day had passed, and Etienne still hadn't lost. The two of them were still able to persist. On the second day, Jia Ping's face had already turned slightly pale. With his level, he wouldn't be able to persist for too long. As for Etienne, his countenance was as calm as ever, without any changes. The third day passed, and Jia Ping's countenance was even more unsightly. When he opened his eyes slightly, he discovered that Etienne's countenance hadn't changed at all. If it wasn't for the fact that he could sense the fluctuations around him, he would have thought that Qin Wentian hadn't started yet. The spectators outside were all shocked. Initially, they thought that Etienne would only be able to persist for 1 or 2 days. Who would have thought that he would be able to persist until the third day? On the fourth day, Jia Ping stood up. His countenance was incomparably pale, and the protective talisman in his hand had already lost its glow. It wasn't that the talisman was broken, but rather his time was up. He had only placed a bid of 4 days, and 4 days was already his limit. Now, for days had passed, and Etienne hadn't moved an inch. Jia Ping, on the other hand, was staggering as he walked. This caused the hearts of the people who had placed their bets to sink. Were they going to lose? "Give me another 5 days," Xiaoping said to attendant Huang. "Young man, don't let your emotions affect your decisions. You won't be able to persist for much longer. Using it like this would only be a waste." Attendant Huang kindly advised, "It's fine. This junior knows his limits." After saying that, he took the talisman and quickly returned to the 5th floor. He sat down to meditate and cultivate again. However, he didn't last long. On the 5th day, he spat out a mouthful of blood with a pu sound. His body swayed slightly, and he fell to the side. He had fainted. As for Yi Tianyin, he still maintained the same posture. He didn't even lift his eyelids as he continued to observe, as if none of this had anything to do with him. After Xiaoping spat out a mouthful of blood, he fell to the ground and couldn't get up. Then, he was quickly teleported to the recovery room by the talisman. That room was a separate room, so only when the person himself woke up could he walk out of the room, or attendant Huang could go in and bring him out. No matter what, the result was obvious. That was, Yi Tianyin won. Xiaoping had completely lost. He had lost to a fledgling. Looking at Xiaoping, who had disappeared from the spot, everyone was stunned. They stared blankly at the area where Xiaoping had fallen. They were completely dumbfounded. They had bet all of their wealth on Xiaoping. Now that Xiaoping had completely lost, it meant that they had lost all of their wealth. This can't be right. Xiaoping, who was ranked 24th, lost? Heavens, I bet all of my wealth. This brat really won. Isn't this too unbelievable? I only bet 10 taels of silver. Many people wailed. Most of them had bet on Xiaoping to win. In the end, they had lost all of their wealth. Although it wasn't a lot, at least the money used to buy elixirs had completely disappeared. Boss won? Yang Yu immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He immediately laughed and said, "I knew that boss would definitely win. I bet 3,000 taels of silver. Hurry up and pay up." Yang Yu extended his hand to the banker to ask for money. The banker beamed and handed 9,000 taels to Yang Yu. He said with a smile, "This is your 9,000 taels of silver. Bet more next time." This time, there was a shocking reversal. This made the banker earn a lot of money. His mouth was grinning from ear to ear. Originally, he thought that he had lost his pants. Now, he was grinning from ear to ear. Now, Xiaoping's popularity had dropped to the freezing point, while Yi Tianyin's popularity had soared to the extreme. A person who was ranked 81st had defeated Xiaoping in terms of mental power. It was simply unbelievable. He really won? Yang Shishue covered her small mouth in shock. This situation made her dumbfounded. Many people didn't think that Yi Tianyin would win. Now, he had won. Moreover, Xiaoping had already finished, but he was still cultivating inside. Although it didn't look like he was cultivating, the surrounding fluctuations proved that he was still in the midst of cultivating. He was constantly absorbing the surrounding energy. And where is he? Yi Tianyin turned his head to look to the side and asked curiously. Chapter 2:12. The question, "Where is he?" made many people speechless. Many people were speechless. Yi Tianyin didn't even realize that he had already won. "Little junior brother, you have already won," Yang Shishue reminded him. "Oh, so I have already won. Where is he?" Yi Tianyin asked. "He has already fainted and hasn't come out of the room yet," Yang Shishue replied. "All right, when he wakes up, tell him to come here." Yi Tianyin's tone was so casual, just like an elder. After saying that, he continued to study the divine rune and continued to carve it. It had to be said that the time it took was quite long. Although the grade of the divine rune wasn't too high, it was complex. It still took quite some time for the appraisal eye to analyze it. This situation shocked all of them. They thought that Yi Tianyin will continue to stay inside to cultivate and persist for 10 days. Is he really going to persist for 10 days? It's possible. If he can really persist for 10 days, then it would be too terrifying. His mental strength is enough to enter the top 15. Oh my God, if he succeeds. I wonder where this hidden family came from. When they saw that Yi Tianyin was looking around, and that even Xiaoping had fainted, they immediately knew that from the beginning, Yi Tianyin didn't treat Xiaoping as an opponent. He just wanted to cultivate here and abuse Jiaping. They thought that Jiaping's provocation was successful, but now it seemed that Jiaping was too stupid and came to be beaten up. On the 6th day, on the 7th day, days passed. Everyone thought that Tianyun would collapse, but unexpectedly, nothing happened. Finally, on the 9th day, Tianyun nodded, turned around, and walked out. This place had been thoroughly studied, and there was nothing left to study. As for the geniuses here, he didn't see anything special. He would rather have nothing than pick someone substandard. Obviously, he didn't like any of these so-called geniuses. When he walked out, he saw many people staring at him blankly. Their eyes were filled with envy, shock, and jealousy. Although it was still one day short of the 10 days set by Tianyun, it was already amazing that he could persist for 9 days. However, looking at Tianyun's relaxed look, he didn't know if it was an act or if he could really persist for that long. Among the many eyes staring at him, there was a pair of eyes filled with hatred. Without a doubt, this person was Jiaping. He had already woken up from his coma. When he learned that he had lost, he was even more furious. But this was the reality. Not only did Tianyun beat him, but he completely crushed him. 9 days was an unimaginable number for him. If he wanted to persist here for 9 days, his mental energy had to be at an extremely high level. At the very least, he had to be at the peak of a 2nd-grade divine inscriptionist. This meant that Tianyun's level had reached the pinnacle of 2nd-grade divine rune master, and he was about to break through to 3rd-grade divine rune master. Jiaping didn't want to be slapped, so he took out a top-grade rune Tianyun as a reward for Tianyun. He didn't believe that Tianyun wouldn't be moved. Even he felt heartache. The value of this rune Tianyun was not low. When the others saw this, their eyes were filled with envy. The value of this rune Tianyun was not low. When the others saw this, their eyes were filled with envy. The value of this rune Tianyun was not low. Who knew that Tianyun didn't even take it? Instead, he stretched out his hand and slapped Jiaping. Pa! Jiaping didn't even have time to react before he was slapped hard against the wall. All the teeth in his mouth fell out, and he fainted just like that. Not long after he woke up, he was slapped by Tianyun again. Everyone was stunned. He didn't want the rune Tianyun or the slap. Wasn't he an idiot? I already said that a slap means a slap. I don't want this trash. Tianyun coldly said. Unfortunately, the Jiaping he was facing had already fainted. This gave them a fright. Wasn't this new disciple a little too ruthless? Jiaping specially gave the rune brush to Tianyun. He didn't want their relationship to be strained, but Tianyun didn't care. He still slapped Jiaping. He didn't want anything else. This ruthlessness caused them to be stunned. After this battle, Tianyun's name resounded through the entire heavenly rune pavilion. This proved that he wasn't just an empty shell. That maze formation wasn't something he just happened to understand, but rather, he had a good foundation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such a shocking performance. Being able to stay here for 9 days proved that all aspects of his strength were shocking. At the very least, in terms of mental energy, he could enter the top 15. This was already a huge lead. No one knew how strong he was. Only by creating divine runes would one be able to display one's true strength. It was like having a body full of brute force, but only knew how to use ordinary fists. If one didn't know any moves, one would be easily defeated by others using softness to defeat hardness. However, the ranking didn't change because of his performance. It remained at the 81st place without any change. At the start, he could only increase his ranking based on his potential. But after entering, his ranking wouldn't change. This could only be determined by the test. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to increase his ranking. Boss, you're really too amazing. You defeated Jiaping so easily. Truly amazing. Yang Yu knew that Tianyun had come out, so he quickly rushed over. He smiled and handed over the banknotes, saying, "This is 4,500 taels of silver. We'll split it in half. What a pity. If I had more silver in my pocket, I would definitely bet more." At that time, he only had 3,000 taels of silver in his pocket, so he could only bet that much. If he had more, it would be gone. Although the Yang family wasn't poor, It was impossible for them to carry around tens of thousands of taels of silver. That wasn't practical. Etianyan pushed it back. He knew about this matter. Out of so many people, Yang Yu was the only one who supported him the most. He still had a good impression of her. Yang Yu was still quite loyal. She would still stand by his side at crucial times. This is what you deserve. If I lost, you would have suffered a loss. Etianyan smiled faintly. Boss, why are you being so polite? Without you, how could I have earned so much? Yang Yu handed over the banknotes and smiled. If you don't accept it, you're not giving me face. Boss, just take this money. If you don't have enough, you can ask me for more. It's time to change your clothes. With me around, I can definitely guarantee that you'll have a good life. Etianyan smiled faintly. Although his clothes weren't particularly luxurious, at least they weren't tattered, right? It could only be said that their requirements were too high. If it wasn't top-notch luxurious silk, it wouldn't do. Seeing how determined he was, Etianyan smiled and said, "All right then, I'll accept it. Actually, I'm also taking a gamble. Previously, you easily broke the maze. I don't think your head was kicked by a donkey to randomly compete with him. I'm sure you have the confidence. As it turns out, I was right. Boss is a capable person. You're showing your prowess for the first time." Yang Yu slapped his thigh and said with some regret, "I should have borrowed some silver to bet. What a pity." Chapter 213. Junior Brother E, you have created a lot of trouble for yourself again. They're all ganging up. If this continues, more people will come to deal with you. Yang Shishua walked over and said worriedly, "Sister, what are you afraid of? Big Brother is much stronger. That slap just now. TSK, TSK. When Yang Yu saw Etianyan's overbearingness, he admired him even more, especially his courage. He was even more convinced. Don't mess around. Yang Shishue glared at him, and Yang Yu suddenly lost his temper. His whole person withered. Although I know that Junior Brother Yi's cultivation level is not low, you have to be careful. They are not ordinary people. Junior Brother Yi, they will definitely not let this go. The best way is to wait for Deacon He to come back and deal with this matter. Otherwise, you will always be pestered by them. As long as they dare to continue doing this, I don't mind giving them a few more slaps." Etianyan wanted to teach these arrogant young masters a lesson. They dared to be arrogant in front of him, but they had to see if they had the ability. "All right." Yang Shishua knew that she could not persuade him, so she said, "Junior Brother E, be careful. If there is anything, you can come to us. We siblings can't help much, but we can still help a little." She originally wanted to solve Feng Yulong's matter, but now it seemed impossible. Even Jia Ping was slapped. That anger was something she could not interfere with. "It's fine," Etianyan said with a faint smile. "By the way, I wonder when Deacon He will come back." He felt that it was about time. At present, there were only a few that caught his eye, such as Yang Shishue and Yang Yu in front of him. They were all very good seedlings. "I'm not sure about this. Deacon He sometimes goes out for a long time before coming back, but he should be back soon," Yang Shishue said. Etianyan nodded. If he did not come back, then he would have to leave. Time was still relatively tight. Next month, he had to go to Star Pavilion. "Then Junior Brother E, we have something to do, so we will leave first." Yang Shishue dragged Yang Yu away, and Yang Yu could only wave at him. "Boss, I will come back to you later," Yang Yu shouted. Etianyan smiled and shook his head. This Yang Yu was quite interesting. Then he walked out of the Heavenly Soul Tower. A young girl walked over. She was extremely beautiful. She had a white and rosy chin, and she wore a light white fairy dress. Her long hair was like a black waterfall, and because her cultivation was not low, she looked like a fairy, full of spiritual energy. The girl looked quite young, about the same age as him. He didn't expect to find a girl around the same age as him in the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Just from the aura she emitted, Etianyan knew that this girl was not simple. The two of them looked at each other. The girl's beautiful eyes looked him up and down without any fear. She then giggled and said, "You must be that Etianyan the newcomer? If I didn't guess wrongly, you should be ranked second, Musian. Of course, there was a basis for his conjecture. He had seen the overall ranking before, and there was a huge difference in the ratio of men to women in the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. He had heard of Mu Xian's situation. She was very young, about 16 or 17 years old. The young girl in front of him undoubtedly fulfilled this criteria, and she was very young. Indeed, there were many monsters in this world. It was rumored that Mu Xian's talent was shocking. At such a young age, she was already at the peak of a second-grade divine rune master. There were even rumors saying that she had already broken through to the third grade. I didn't expect you to know me. Mu Xian smiled cutely, looking quite mischievous. It was impossible to tell that she was the demon-level genius ranked second. She gave people the feeling that she was the girl next door. So cute. I was just guessing, and I just happened to guess correctly. Tianyin smiled faintly. Thank you, big brother, for your praise. I wish you a good ranking in next month's test. Mu Xian smiled sweetly. She looked quite cute and polite, without any arrogance. Thank you. Tianyin thanked her and turned to leave. At this moment, a crafty light flashed in Mu Xian's eyes. Her slender hand suddenly took out a piece of divine rune paper and pasted it on his back. Everything was so silent, as though it wasn't the first time she did it. After she finished, she quickly ran forward. However, she didn't know that Tianyin was even faster than her. He grabbed the divine rune paper and pasted it on her back. At the same time, he turned around and watched her running back. He stood there, looking at her with interest. After Mu Xian ran for a short distance, she turned around again. When she saw Tianyin looking at her with interest, she felt that it was very strange. Big brother, what's wrong? Mu Xian looked at him with an innocent expression, but Tianyin quickly caught sight of her gloating expression. Nothing. I'm just looking at you. Tianyin smiled indifferently. You bang. Suddenly, the divine rune paper on her back exploded, transforming into a wave of air that sent her flying, causing her to scream. This little trick trying to trick me. I didn't expect it to be a little demoness. When Mu Xian pasted the divine rune paper on his back, he had already sensed it. Thus, he pasted it back at an even faster speed. His cultivation was much higher than Mu Xian's. If he didn't even know this, then he would have broken through for nothing. What was inscribed on the divine rune paper wasn't a divine rune, but a formation. This formation was called the Explosive Flame Formation. In fact, it didn't have any killing power. It could only be used to bounce people up and scare them. Thus, after it exploded, Mu Xian was sent flying. When Tianyin looked at her with a gaze that was filled with excitement, he discovered that Mu Xian was actually flying in his direction. Then, she fell from the sky, smashing towards him. Looking at her falling expression, her beautiful face had already turned pale. Both of them were frightened by this scene. Tianyin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It turned out that this Mu Xian had never experienced something like this before. Immediately after, the instant she fell, he grabbed her and quickly pulled her into his embrace. The instant she fell into his embrace, he hugged her and spun her around a few times. Only then did the impact dissipate. However, a powerful slap landed on her, but, pa! Mu Xian was slapped, causing her delicate body to tremble and become stiff. Her originally frightened expression turned into shock. She didn't expect that someone would actually slap her, but, want to prank me? You're still 100 years too early. Chapter 214. Such a small punishment immediately made Mu Xian angry. You hit me there? Mu Xian blushed and almost went crazy. Pointing at him, she was speechless. The little witch's temper was exposed. There was no trace of her previous playful and cute expression. I'm teaching you a lesson. Playing tricks on others is fine, but if you want to play tricks on me, you have to pay the price. Tianyin smiled. I'm going to kill you. Mu Xian screamed and rushed directly to his side. The aura of 7th level spirit refinement realm completely broke out. At such a young age, her cultivation is not weak. She seemed to have lost her mind. She waved her palm and wanted to hit him heavily. Being molested by a man she met for the first time, it is difficult for her to calm down, especially when she has been treated as a princess. Being molested like this, it would be strange if she wasn't angry. Heavenly Pattern Pavilion does not allow personal fights. You have to think clearly. Yi Tianyun did not forget to remind her. Mu Xian remembered at this time. Gritting her teeth, she quickly retracted her palm. After a circle in the air, she landed next to Yi Tianyun and stared at him bitterly. You lecher, you are not much older than me. How can you be so obscene? Obviously, she has regained her sanity. Personal fights can basically be used on anyone, including Mu Xian. Mu Xian is born eccentric. She often plays tricks on others. Fortunately, it's just a small matter. Because of her identity as the granddaughter of the great elder, no one dares to touch her at will. Even if they're played, they don't dare to be like Yi Tianyun, playing tricks on her and even spanking her ass. Although Mu Xian's ass is not a tiger's ass, the effect is much stronger than a tiger. I'm helping to teach you a lesson. Don't play tricks on others. Be a good girl, don't be so naughty. In fact, it should be said that you played tricks on me, so you have to pay the price. Yi Tianyun looked at her with interest. Others might be afraid of Mu Xian, but he is not. Very good. Mu Xian was so angry that her fingers trembled. She clenched her teeth and said, Just you wait. I will make you regret it, you lecher. With that, she stomped on the ground and ran into the Heavenly Soul Tower. She could not be bothered with Yi Tianyun anymore. Obviously, she had something to attend to. Otherwise, she would really be entangled with him. Yi Tianyun shook his head and didn't take it seriously at all. He turned around and went back. Very quickly, he returned to the Heavenly Rune Pavilion. By the time he returned, the news of the Heavenly Soul Tower had already spread like wildfire. More importantly, Yi Tianyun had defeated Jiaping. This meant that his overall level was higher than Jiaping's. Yi Tianyun looked up and found that his ranking had really changed. It had directly soared to the 24th place. He replaced Jiaping's position. As for Jiaping, he became 25th. This ranking change was quite fast. He had just returned, and the surrounding gazes converged on him in unison. There was surprise, jealousy, suspicion, and all sorts of other kinds of gazes in the gazes. Yi Tianyun didn't care at all. Just as they were about to leave, two people walked over menacingly in front of them. They looked extraordinary. According to the direction they were walking in, it was obvious that they were coming for them. Big brother! At this moment, Yang Yu hurried over. When she saw the two of them, there was some fear in her eyes. After running over, she tilted her head and whispered to Yi Tianyun. They are Liang Bing, who is ranked 19th, and Yuan Jingyang, who is ranked 20th. They have a good relationship with the Feng family and the Jiao family. Clearly, they are not here with good intentions. As expected, in a place full of competition like this, they come looking for trouble with the slightest mistake. Yi Tianyun saw their imposing manner and knew that they were here to find trouble with him. They must be friends or companions of Jiaping's group. They were completely related. Yi Tianyun had just returned, and they came looking for him. They were extremely petty. However, this was normal. They belonged to different factions. It was normal that they didn't like him. They walked over and squinted at him for a moment. Then, they looked at Yang Yu. Zhang Bin said angrily, Yo, I didn't expect you to become a follower. Now that you have a backer, you can be arrogant and dare to go against us? I don't know who was the one who was beaten to the point of begging for mercy and hiding. He didn't even dare to look us in the eye. Zhang Bin, don't say that. He has always been like this. He thinks that he has become more powerful because he found a backer. Liang Bing smiled indifferently and looked at Yi Tianyun. Only you would take someone like him in. Be careful that if he encounters any difficulties in the future, he will be the first to run and you will be abandoned. Bullsh asterisk T. Yang Yu said angrily. How can I be such a person? I lost to you, but I never begged for mercy. You're talking nonsense. His tone was firm. It didn't seem like he was talking nonsense. It was obviously just slander. No matter what, you're all the same. You just arrived and already beat up two of our brothers. SK, you're really arrogant. Do you think this is your home? Liang Bing sneered. If you want to survive here, Don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, you won't even know when you die outside. This was already a threat. They were starting to be arrogant just because they had some status. Yin waved his hand and said indifferently, "All this nonsense. Don't tell me you want to duel with me? If you want to duel, sure. You can start now." "Good." Liang Bing's eyes burst with a murderous intent. He sneered. "Then let's go to the duel arena now." This was the effect he needed. The assessment was about to begin. During the duel, if Yin was injured or killed, then this assessment would have nothing to do with him. Liang Bing could then secure his ranking. However, Yin had no intention of participating in any assessment. This had nothing to do with him. "Boss, their cultivation is much stronger than Jia Ping's." Yang Yu was anxious. Liang Bing's cultivation was not low. They could clearly see that he was deliberately provoking them. They didn't expect that Yin would really take the bait. This was a crucial period. If he was injured, he would not be able to participate in the next round of assessment. "It's fine. I have my own plans." Yin reached out and patted his shoulder. "Whoever insults the people around me, no matter who it is, I will make them pay the price." This? Yang Yu was stunned. He was very touched. He gritted his teeth and said, "Big brother, from now on, you're my big brother." Chapter 215. "Ha! You still recognize him as your big brother?" Liang Bing sneered. "Later on, you can help carry your big brother back for treatment. Remember to take good care of your big brother. Don't let him run around. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died." The battle had not even begun, and Liang Bing was already talking nonsense, thinking that he would definitely win. "My big brother won't lose," Yang Yu said coldly. "Is that so? Won't you know later?" Liang Bing snorted coldly. He turned around and walked towards the battle stage with Zhang Bin. Soon, they stood on the battle stage. As the news spread, many people quickly gathered to watch. When they saw the battle between Yin and Liang Bing, they were all shocked. Wasn't this courting death? Liang Bing's cultivation was so high. This newcomer had just joined not long ago, and he already caused so much trouble? This Yin is courting death. He actually dared to duel with Liang Bing. Liang Bing's divine runes level is not bad, but his true strength is still in martial arts. I heard that he fought because he wanted to help Yang Yu vent her anger. For Yang Yu, he's courting death? He's really courting death. They all shook their heads. They felt that this action was not worth it. It was also very irrational. "This is a spar. You can't kill him." The guards at the side came over to watch. Sparring here was fine, but killing was absolutely not allowed. The Heavenly Rune Pavilion also didn't want their disciples to die frequently. "Don't worry, I won't kill him. After all, he's from the same sect. It's just a spar. Let him know that being too arrogant here is not a good thing." Liang Bing sneered. He already had an idea in his heart. He indeed couldn't kill, but it didn't mean that he couldn't be heavy-handed. It would be good if he was left with half his life. He would ruthlessly teach Yin a lesson. Yin just stood there, looking at him coldly. "Are you ready?" "I've long been prepared, but since we're juniors, I'll let you have 3 moves first." Liang Bing stretched out 3 fingers. This was how confident he was in himself. Being able to deal with Feng Yulong didn't mean that he could deal with him. He was much stronger than Feng Yulong, so it was not a problem for Yin to deal with Feng Yulong. As for Jia Ping, he had lost the bet. He believed that he had stood there on purpose and not because he couldn't block Yin's attack. 3 moves? Yin shook his head and stretched out his hand. He raised a finger and said in a deep voice, "I only need 1 move to defeat you." "Oh, you're really arrogant. In that case, I'll stand here and see how you defeat me in 1 move." Liang Bing was furious. He didn't expect this newcomer to be so arrogant. This was already a threat to his senior brothers. The people below all shook their heads, feeling that Yin was too arrogant and not calm at all. Even if this kind of person didn't suffer here, he would definitely suffer in the future outside. After all, being too arrogant wasn't a good thing. Everything had to be learned to endure. Those who could think this way were those with lower backgrounds. They would rather be humiliated and endure it. Arrogant my ass. Brother Liang, teach him a lesson. Let them know how powerful we are. The rankings jumped so high. I wonder how they decided. That's right. Teach him a lesson and let him know how powerful we are. Those who supported Liang Bing were all from the same faction. Seeing this newcomer, Yi Tianyun, climb up and even push them down, they felt very embarrassed. As soon as they finished speaking, a boom was heard. An explosion erupted from the area where Yi Tianyun was standing. He erupted with a terrifying strength, causing the ground to sink. Under his crazy stomps, the ground began to tremble. This loud explosion caused everyone to be dumbfounded. They abruptly raised their heads to look at the phantom that rushed up, their eyes filled with horror. The domineering phantom was magnified to the extreme. Blue veins popped up on both of his legs. His strength seemed to have exploded to the extreme. Violent strength and air waves swept out in all directions. There weren't any fancy moves, just a collision that brought the strength of his physique to the limit. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of crazy stomps resounded in the surroundings. It felt like the ground was shaking. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying explosive force allowed Yi Tianyun to rush in front of Liang Bing. He didn't use any sneak attack. As soon as he arrived, he swung his leg heavily towards Liang Bing like a long whip. Liang Bing hurriedly reached out his hand to block. But as soon as he came into contact with this terrifying kick, he felt as if a heavy mountain was pressing down on him. The crazy vibration made a crack sound, and the bones in his arm were actually shattered. His arms went limp, and he immediately loosened his grip. What followed was a terrifying kick that landed heavily on his chest. Dong! Liang Bing's body, which weighed more than 100 pounds, was kicked out like a kite. He was thrown high up in the air, and then with a loud bang, he smashed into a distant house. No one knew if he was dead or alive. This scene made everyone dumbfounded. One kick sent Liang Bing flying, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. The terrifying strength made their hearts tremble. They fiercely sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of strength was this? Wasn't it supposed to be weak? Brother Liang. Zhang Bin hurriedly ran over and ran into the collapsed house to rummage. When he moved Liang Bing out, he was already half dead. His chest had caved in. He wasn't dead, but he would have to lie in bed for at least a few months before he could get out of bed and move around. Liang Bing couldn't resist this terrifying kick at all. How could he resist such a strength that far surpassed him? This was also a power that was mixed with anger. Who could stop it? So powerful. Yang Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. Boss is too powerful. This strength is too terrifying. Even if it was a giant bear, I believe it would be kicked far away. It's really a one-hit kill. So ruthless. Deacon Huang. He used a killing move. Zhang Bin pointed at Yi Tianyun and complained angrily. Deacon Huang, who was at the side, came over to check. He shook his head and said, "No, it's a normal duel. Take it and recuperate." Fists and kicks had no eyes. The strength was controlled. It didn't kill Liang Bing, so it wasn't considered a killing move. Zhang Bin was anxious. He didn't expect Liang Bing to be defeated just like that, and Yi Tianyun wasn't injured at all. "Do you want to have a match with me?" Yi Tianyun looked down at him from the contest stage. His eyes were cold. Zhang Bin's heart trembled. Liang Bing was defeated. With his level, how could he be qualified to duel with Yi Tianyun? He would definitely end up like Liang Bing, sent flying with a kick. "What? You don't want to fight?" Yi Tianyun sneered. "If you want to step on his face, you have to be prepared to be stepped on. I will take Brother Liang to recuperate first. Next time, I will beat you." Zhang Bin immediately used Liang Bing as an excuse to get rid of this challenge. Immediately, he brought Liang Bing down to treat his injuries. However, anyone with a discerning eye could see that he was afraid. He just found a good excuse to get out of the situation. Other people who originally supported Liang Bing are now silent. They don't like Yi Tianyun, but they are also worse than Liang Bing. They didn't expect him to be defeated so easily. This newcomer is also so terrifying in terms of strength. Yi Tianyun snorted coldly and walked down the stage. Yang Yu rushed up and said excitedly, "Boss, you are so amazing. aren't you? The power you used just now is almost at the peak of spirit refinement realm. How did you cultivate? I broke through all practicing. Yun smiled indifferently, but it made Yang Yu almost vomit blood. What kind of explanation is this? This was the result of him suppressing his cultivation. If he were to raise his cultivation, then Liang Bing would definitely die. They're just playing house here. They don't need to be too serious. If not for the sake of Heaven's top mansion, they would have already slapped them. Chapter 216. After the fight, Yun's name spread throughout the entire Heaven's top mansion, and many people know about his situation. Not only is his spiritual force strong, but his cultivation is also not simple, and he's still young. A new monstrous genius is about to rise, which shocked many people. The most important thing is that such a monstrous genius actually came to Heaven's top mansion. Heaven's top mansion is still a third-grade faction, but it's already at the bottom of the third-grade faction, and it's possible that it will fall out of the third-grade faction at any time. Although the disciples who stayed here are outstanding, but compared to other factions, they are still far behind. Therefore, many people don't understand why Yun chose to stay here. If it were them, they would have already joined another third-grade faction instead of staying here. This is the cruel reality. If a sect is declining, they will definitely not be a priority. If it weren't for the third-grade faction, there would be even fewer people here. After the competition, Yun returned to his room, but not long after, he felt someone coming towards him. Immediately, someone knocked on the door, and he got up to open the door. When he opened the door, the person standing in front of him is none other than He Qianhan. And it's you. He Qianhan's beautiful eyes widened when she saw Yun. She didn't expect that the person in front of her is Yun, a youth who is even stronger than her in divine inscription. We meet again, Deacon He, Yun said with a smile. Finally, Deacon He is back. He has been out for a long time. If she didn't come back, Yun planned to leave. Without acquaintances, it's not easy to act in this place, and the restrictions are too big. It's not easy to go to different places, so it's basically impossible to get any information. You're the one I recommended to be my disciple, the one who was in the limelight recently, the one with strong spiritual force and cultivation. He Qianhan smiled bitterly. When she saw Yun, she knew that she made a big mistake. That's right. I gave this token to them, and they all said that it was a recommendation token for me to come and be their disciple. Yun took out the token and handed it over, saying, Deacon He, did you give me the wrong token? Let them think that I'm here to join Heaven's top mansion. The token wasn't given to the wrong person. They were definitely mistaken. He Qianhan smiled bitterly and said, I guess it's because I've recommended too many people. They thought that I was recommending someone else this time, so they didn't look carefully at the token. The most important thing is that you're too young. No one would think that you're my guest. What she said was true. The token was not wrong, but it was not very different from the token used to invite guests. As long as one did not look carefully, they would not be able to tell the difference. From the looks of it, Deacon He didn't ask me to take the test to become a disciple. Yun smiled knowingly. He knew from the start that it was a mistake. He just wanted to take advantage of the situation and make the best of it. How is that possible? With your level, you can already be our deacon. Why do you still want to be a disciple? He Qianhan said awkwardly. It's our fault this time. I'll take you to the main hall and officially welcome you. Yun nodded and followed He Qianhan out. There's no point in staying here any longer. He has thoroughly understood Heavenly Rune Pavilion. Overall, it's average. As a very important sect, if it's average, it proves that Heaven's top mansion is not good. Except for a few outstanding disciples, the rest can only be regarded as average. Of course, it's still a lot better than Heavenly Jade's sect, but the atmosphere is not to his liking. Those who join are all from different families. If they don't unite, how can they become a good sect? He always felt that these families are the type to get a lot of money and then leave. They don't intend to treat Heaven's top mansion sincerely. Thinking of Deacon Shin's betrayal, Yun felt that Heaven's top mansion is declining. Under He Qianhan's lead, Yun didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. Some disciples saw He Qianhan and Tianyun and showed envy. It's obvious that she brought him to a good place. Maybe she gave him some good treasures. The more potential a disciple had, the more resources they would be given. This was an unchanging principle. Soon, they walked out of Heavenly Rune Pavilion and went to the main hall. The main hall is located in the innermost part of Heaven's top mansion. It occupies the best location. Many elders and deacons stay in it to cultivate. Among them, the core disciples stay in it to cultivate. This group of core disciples, no matter what faction they are from, as long as they are good enough, they can enter. When they came to the main hall, Tianyun looked up and saw the words Heaven's Top Mansion. Just these 3 words alone released a strong pressure. Obviously, the person who wrote these 3 words is not an ordinary person. He estimated that it's the old ancestor of Heaven's Top Mansion. Heaven's Top Mansion has a spirit king Xiantian, which proves that Heaven's Top Mansion has infinite potential. After entering, Tianyun didn't see the luxurious decorations, but the antique atmosphere. It's not decorated with gold and silver, but a lot of simple and unadorned spirit wood. These spirit wood are not ordinary, just as decoration. It's enough to increase the concentration of spiritual energy in this place. Therefore, as soon as he entered, he felt a comfortable feeling in his heart. The rich spiritual energy is an excellent nourishment for cultivators. Even an ordinary person would be able to prolong their lifespan under this long-term nourishment. Deacon He, this time you brought back a good seedling. He looks quite young. I heard that this time you recommended a disciple who is very good. After bringing back so many disciples, you finally got lucky this time? An old man's face was full of sarcasm. He didn't have the slightest intention to congratulate He Qianhan. Deacon Guan, this is the disciple I recommended before. But in fact, he's not the disciple I recommended. He's a guest of Heaven's Top Mansion. They misread the token I gave him and thought it was a recommendation token. He Qianhan didn't care about Deacon Guan's sarcasm. Instead, she explained, a distinguished guest of Heaven's Top Mansion? Deacon Guan was stunned for a moment, and then immediately looked at him from head to toe. Not a disciple, but a distinguished guest? Like I said, how could you possibly be so lucky to find such a talented disciple? That disciple must be from another force. May I know which third-grade force you are from? I'm not from a third-grade faction. I'm from a second-grade faction. Tianyun replied lightly. Second-grade faction? Deacon Guan was stunned. He Qianhan was also stunned. She didn't expect Tianyun to be from a second-grade faction. I thought you're from a big faction. How can a second-grade faction be a distinguished guest? Deacon Guan shook his head. Deacon He, you're getting more and more unreliable. I'm starting to doubt if you're qualified to be a deacon. He Qianhan's face turned cold. This isn't the first time Deacon Guan went against her, and every time he did, he made her very unhappy. Isn't a distinguished guest from a second-grade faction? His divine rune grade is not low. He's very influential in Star Pavilion. Deacon He said solemnly. Divine rune grade is not low? Deacon Guan looked at Tianyun up and down. His eyes were full of disdain. Is he a second grade or early third grade? In Heavenly Rune Pavilion, there are a lot of people like him. He can't even enter the top 5. No, he's a 4th grade divine rune master. He Qianhan corrected him. Chapter 217. When Deacon Guan heard that Tianyun is a 4th grade divine rune master, he almost swallowed his own tongue. In the entire Heaven's Top Mansion, 4th grade divine rune masters are all deacons, and their number is extremely small. How is it possible for a 17 or 18-year-old boy to be a 4th grade divine rune master? He is a 4th grade divine rune master. How is it possible? Deacon Guan quickly recovered and pointed at Tianyun with disbelief. Believe it or not, it has nothing to do with you. Deacon, he made an inviting gesture, indicating Tianyun to go inside. Young Master E, please come inside. I will introduce you to the other elders in the sect. Qianhan didn't care about Deacon Guan anymore and walked inside with Tianyun. Deacon Guan glared at Qianhan angrily. Qianhan thought for a moment and followed Qianhan with a sneer. Young Master E, your talent is amazing. I don't know if you want to join our Heaven's Top Mansion. At this time, He Qianan immediately wanted to recruit Yi Tianyan, especially when she heard that he is a second-grade faction. She was very happy. If it was a third-grade faction, she wouldn't be able to recruit him. But the second-grade faction is different. Although Heaven's Top Mansion is at the bottom of the third-grade faction, it is at least a third-grade faction. If she can invite such a genius to join, it is equivalent to adding another genius to Heaven's Top Mansion. I don't have such a plan for the time being. Yi Tianyan politely refused. He came here to poach people or to merge with Heaven's Top Mansion. They will be the big head, not Heaven's Top Mansion. If Heaven's Top Mansion is the main force, he might as well choose to be independent. Of course, Heaven's Top Mansion is also not willing to merge with them. After all, no matter how weak they are still third-grade faction. But in Yi Tianyan's opinion, if things continue like this, Heaven's Top Mansion will inevitably fall apart. And if they are not united, then there's nothing he can do. I see. Yi Qianan showed a disappointed look. If Deacon he wants to join our Jade sect, I will welcome you with open arms. I'm looking forward to Deacon he joining us. At this time, Yi Tianyan suddenly said, shocking Yi Qianan. If a grade 2 faction were to invite a grade 3 faction to join them, unless the person invited was a fool, he or she would not be willing to join. Well, thank you for your kind intentions, young Master Yi, but I have no such plans. Yi Qianan shook her head. The question was rather unexpected. Under Yi Qianan's lead, they entered the inner main hall. The moment they entered, they saw some core disciples walking around inside. The cultivation of these core disciples was not simple. Some of them even broke through to core condensation, which was equivalent to deacon level. Back then, deacon he was a core disciple and only became a deacon later on. The biggest difference between core disciples and deacons was their authority. Deacons definitely had more authority. Among them, Yi Tianyan saw an acquaintance. It was Mu Xian-er. Mu Xian-er was talking to an old man. Yi Tianyan looked up and saw that the old man was at 5th level spirit core. Obviously, he was an elder. He saw Mu Xian-er, and Mu Xian-er also saw him. She was stunned for a moment, then immediately glared at him. It's you. Although her voice was not loud, everyone in the main hall looked at her. Then they saw Mu Xian-er's finger pointing at Yi Tianyan. Yes, it's me. Yi Tianyan smiled and said, Miss Xian, we meet again. Meet your head. Mu Xian-er glared at him. Xian-er, what's wrong? Did he bully you? The elder next to her smiled warmly. No. Mu Xian-er didn't dare to say it out loud. Did Yi Tianyan slap her ass? If not, then why did you speak so loudly to him? The great elder said, Girl, speak softly. Don't be too barbaric. Who would dare to be your cultivation companion in the future? Grandpa, how can you say that to me? Mu Xian-er was very dissatisfied. She immediately said arrogantly, Those who want to be my cultivation companion are not even born yet. Yi Tianyan immediately laughed. She was really arrogant and full of character. However, with her amazing talent, there are relatively few people who are worthy of her, but not none. This little brother, Xian-er, seems to have pranked you. I hope you don't take it to heart. She was just fooling around. It can be seen that the great elder is still very protective of his granddaughter. Although on the surface he is teaching her a lesson, he is still very doting. It's okay, I don't care. Yi Tianyan smiled. Of course he doesn't care. Mu Xian immediately screamed like a kitten whose tail was stepped on. Cough, cough. Great elder, this is young Master Yi who helped me in the Star Pavilion previously. He is also the champion of the Star Pavilion's internal competition. Due to some circumstances, he was mistakenly thought to be a disciple that I recommended. In fact, he is not the disciple that I recommended. Yi Qianan stood out and helped Yi Tianyan to introduce. Champion of the Star Pavilion's internal competition? The great elder's eyes lit up. Mu Xian-er, who was at the side, was shocked by this news. She has heard about the Star Pavilion's matter. This is a relatively big matter. Plus Yi Qianan went to help, so she is relatively clear about the situation. To be able to get the first place, it means that without a 4th grade, it is really impossible to win. It seems that he is so young, but he is already a 4th grade Divine Rune Master. It is really unbelievable. That's just saying, who knows if it is true or not. We have not seen it. Just randomly pull someone over and say that he is the champion. I can even pull him over. At this time, Deacon Guan walked out and sneered, just like the disciple that Deacon he brought back, saying that he is very outstanding and can become an outstanding disciple. But in the end, his talent is very poor, and some of them can't even hold on and run away. I am wholeheartedly for the sect. Qianan felt very wronged. She wholeheartedly worked for Heaven's top mansion and found a good disciple. Wholeheartedly for the sect? Deacon Guan sneered. Wholeheartedly for the sect. Don't bring back so many garbage. It is a waste of resources. To be honest, if you were not the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian, you would have been removed from your position. Deacon Guan, that's enough. The great elder shouted to stop Deacon Guan's rudeness. Tianyun was startled. This Qianhan is the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian. No wonder she is so willing to do her best for Heaven's top mansion. This made him smell the scent of poaching. Great elder, did I say something wrong? She often brings back some so-called seedlings, but they basically run away. Deacon Guan said coldly. Do you know why the people that Deacon he brought back ran away? Tianyun interrupted at this time. It is because Heavenly Pattern Pavilion is too lousy. What kind of group of disciples are there? They try to suppress the newcomers, and if they don't obey orders, they will be kicked away. Let alone the newcomers. Even I have to leave immediately. Who do you think you are? This is Heaven's top mansion's business. You have no right to interfere, Deacon Guan said coldly. Chapter 218. Spirit King Xiantian's successor. This news was quite shocking, and no one in the room expected it. Qianan looked at Tianyun in shock. How did Spirit King Xiantian's successor suddenly appear out of nowhere? Tianyun already felt that Qianhan has been wronged enough. He can see that Qianhan is very considerate of Heaven's top mansion. He really needs this kind of person to help him. Only then can he devote himself wholeheartedly to the Jade Sect and strengthen the Jade Sect. Instead, he is neglected here. If he didn't go to Heavenly Pattern Pavilion before, he wouldn't know the reason, but now he knows. If the other factions are the same, no wonder no one from Heaven's top mansion came here. It's just a bunch of rich kids messing around. How can they cultivate? Obviously, Heaven's top mansion, in order to strengthen their own forces, they give priority to those powerful families. But they don't know that it's equivalent to recruiting a group of bullies. Now that he knows that Qianhan is the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian, he has even more reason to stand up. In theory, he is equivalent to Spirit King Xiantian's disciple. Heavenly Jade Sect relies on Heaven's immersing ancient ruins to survive. This kindness must be repaid. You're the successor of Spirit King Xiantian? What a joke! Do you think I'm the successor, just because you say so? Deacon Guan sneered. Great elder, look who did Deacon he bring here. He even dares to pretend to be the successor of Spirit King Xiantian. Tell me, what is your purpose here? Don't tell me you want to plunder our Heaven's top mansion's resources. The next moment, Tianyun's eyes flashed with cold light. He rushed forward and slapped Deacon Guan's face. A layer of light blue light appeared on his palm. Pah! Deacon Guan was slapped flying and directly hit the thick wall. The terrifying impact made the wall tremble. It's enough to show how strong this slap is. Under this slap, Deacon Guan's face is swollen. Many of his teeth fell off. The sudden slap stunned Deacon Guan. He immediately crawled up and pointed at Chu Yang while trembling. You actually dare to hit me? This is the Xiantian divine technique? A thin layer of crystal appeared on Tianyun's palm. This was the effect of the Xiantian divine art. It could condense a layer of hard crystal on the surface of his body, allowing him to withstand a lot of attacks. Before this, Tianyun hadn't used it much. It wasn't that this absolute art wasn't good. It was just that his strength was enough to kill everything in an instant. He didn't need to defend at all. When the others saw this effect, they immediately recognized that this was the Xiantian divine art. This is Spirit King Xiantian's secret art. Only direct disciples can cultivate it. Even as the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian, Qianan had never cultivated the Xiantian divine art. Even Heaven's Top Mansion didn't have the complete version of Xiantian divine art. So when they saw it, they were shocked and immediately believed that it was the real Xiantian divine art. Yes, this is the Xiantian divine art. How dare you accuse me of pretending to be the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian and slander me? Yi Tianyun said coldly. You really are the descendant of our ancestor. He Qianan covered his mouth in surprise. Yes, I am the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian. Yi Tianyun nodded. Mu Xian was stunned. This young man is not much older than her, but he is the descendant of Spirit King Xiantian. Moreover, she heard that he is a 4th-grade divine rune master. Isn't he more powerful than her? This is really the Xiantian divine art. This is great. The pain on Deacon Guan's face seemed to have disappeared. He hurriedly stood up and said, quickly hand over the Xiantian divine art. This is the treasure of our Heaven's Top Mansion. Yes, this Xiantian divine art is the treasure of our Heaven's Top Mansion. Please hand over the Xiantian divine art. At this time, it was not the great elder who spoke, but another old man who came out. His cultivation was at the 4th level of Spirit Core stage. After the old man came out, another old man came out. His cultivation was also at the 4th level of Spirit Core stage. Obviously, he was also an elder-level figure. They looked at Yi Tianyun as if they saw a treasure. Their eyes were shining, and there was a bit of greed in the depth of their eyes. Second elder, third elder, you've come out. Enforcer Guan eagerly ran over, as if he'd found a backer. I don't know where you came from, but the Xiantian divine art is the treasure of our Heaven's Top Mansion. Please hand it over. The second elder looked at him and said. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold. Obviously, these people heard that he has the Xiantian divine art, so they wanted to hand it over. He didn't expect that Spirit King Xiantian didn't pass the Xiantian divine art to him, so he must have his reasons. Second elder, my ancestor's words were not like this. He only passed it to his own disciple, not to the sect. Yi Tianyun didn't speak, but Yi Qianhan intervened. Her voice was sonorous. She was defending Yi Tianyun. Yes, we still have to follow Spirit King Xiantian's words. The great elder frowned. He was not happy with the second elder's words. Great elder, that's true, but the problem is he really an inheritor? Maybe he got the Xiantian Shun art from somewhere and casually practiced it, and then he became an elder in Heaven's Top Mansion? Second elder coldly snorted. Oh, if you have the ability, why don't you try to practice it? Yi Tianyun interrupted. The second elder was simply a joke. He even said such words. It was obvious that he wanted to forcibly take the Xiantian divine art as an excuse. Our ancestor will not casually give away the Xiantian divine art. As long as someone practices the Xiantian divine art, no matter who he is, he must be recognized as the successor. As long as he meets the conditions, he can become an elder of Heaven's Top Mansion. Yi Qianhan said coldly. She completely implemented her ancestor's last wish. No matter who Yi Tianyun is, she must recognize him as the successor. Deacon He, I know what you are thinking, but we will not recognize him. Especially now that Heaven's Top Mansion is in a critical situation. If you don't hand over the Xiantian divine art, don't even think about leaving here. The second elder stepped forward. His spirit core aura burst out and swept the surrounding. The third elder also stepped aside. His spirit core aura also burst out, completely blocking the area. Since persuasion doesn't work, he can only use force. What do you want to do? Yi Qianhan stood in front of Yi Tianyun without flinching. You are violating our ancestors' last wish. No, we are doing this for the sake of Heaven's Top Mansion, but also for the sake of Spirit King Xiantian. Spirit King Xiantian went somewhere and never came back. Maybe he just happened to pick up the relic he left behind. The second elder sneered. Do you think I will recognize him? This is simply an insult to Spirit King Xiantian. These bastards often distort black and white. This is what they always do. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed a cold light. He thought that after revealing his identity, he thought that they will recognize him. Who knows, it will attract their greed. From their point of view, they are not doing this to protect Spirit King Xiantian. They're doing this for themselves. Practicing the Xian Tian divine art can enhance their cultivation. There is a good chance for them to break through to core transformation stage. How can they not be tempted? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.